Welcome in. John, the draft is in session today. This is a special episode with myself, Matt Hicks, the FF educator, and John Lobb, the gridiron scholar. John is coming to us live from Canton, Ohio, as many of our friends will be as well today. This is a live stream of the College Fantasy Football Kings Classic League Draft. John, we are about 9 minutes from kicking off this draft. We have a little pre-draft coverage, and then we're going to be going through the draft, not only each pick, but we're going to have each league mate join us for a few minutes as well. That's a little bit of an introduction, but John, this is your baby, man. You have been doing a ton to get us ready for this day, so I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to you, man. How you feeling? You excited?
Oh, beyond excited. The family and I drove out to Ohio yesterday. It was about a 10-hour trip from New Haven, Connecticut to Canton, Ohio. We actually ended up sneaking to the Hall of Fame last night. We went to the store. We didn't do the museum tour yet, but you can go into the store for free. The NFL wants you to spend the money. So we were able to walk around the store. We loved it. We had a good dinner, but it's finally here. 5 months of work to get everyone to the Kings Classic. I'm in this amazing conference room at the Doubletree Hilton in Canton, Ohio. There's 2 NFL drafts today, but we are kicking it off with the college fantasy football draft. We have how many members? I got 3, 4, 7 members with me in the room here, Matt. Very excited. And ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that we are doing in conjunction with the Kings Classic draft is we have a fundraiser for veterans. A good friend of mine, Dan Klaskins, works for the Kentucky Veterans Association in Kentucky. So men and women who have served our nation. And I also have a good friend in Connecticut who works for the Veterans Association. And I hear lots of stories that I would not share because some of the stories of veterans are very tough and they're private. Any amount that anyone can donate, any little bit of money to a veteran, go to my Twitter feed, Gridiron Skull 91, and right at the very top, pinned to the top, is the link, a PayPal link. If everyone watches just gives $2 to $10, that could make a tremendous difference to a veteran. If you don't know a veteran, or you haven't worked with veterans or read about veterans of what has happened, a lot of them need our help. So please go help them. That's part of the Kings Classic League. It is Do Good Fantasy with Dan Klaskins, and we've teamed up with him. But let me introduce all the great people that we have with us today. In the room with us in Canton, Ohio, we have the CFF guys on Twitter, Josh Chevalier from Fantasy Points. He does CFB and DFS for them. We have JD Yankee from Campus to Campus podcast. He's here with me in the room. We have Nick Allen, my partner on the profiles on Fantrax from CFB Winning Edge. You got to check out his projections and everything he does. We have Jared Palmgren from Chasing the Natty and his teammate Xavier Hood, Chasing the Natty. Go to YouTube, pop in Chasing the Natty. They're both here. We have Mike Bainbridge from the great CFF site. His partner, Joe DeSilva, couldn't make it, but hopefully Joe comes out next year and we finally get to meet him. And I have Eric Froton, my partner from the CFF On Campus podcast, now on the ITL site. We're all in the room today live from Canton, Ohio. We're ready to kick it off. We also have some great people who are drafting with us today. We're live, so we might have some snafus every once in a while as we go around here, ladies and gentlemen. I know we have my teammate Scott Bogman. He unfortunately wasn't able to make it, but he's drafting with us also. We have Matt. Matt's joining us. He introduced, I think you have pick number 9, right, Matt?
Pick number 9 today. We'll see.
So Matt's got pick number 9 in the draft, and John Mckechnie from RotoWire. He's in the great state of Virginia. He's drafting with us. So that's everyone we have on board. We're bringing in a bunch of these draft experts to chat about their team, their draft strategies, any bold predictions, biggest disappointments they see in college fantasy football or just football this year. I always have Texas as the biggest disappointment, so there's no reason to even talk about that. My friend Mike is talking about Michigan. They're right up up there. They've now joined Texas as the annual. But Mike, one good news, they're not in the ESPN top 25, right? So I'm actually happy that they're not ranked this year. And then, oh, I forgot Kevin Brown. He's with us too, Draft, and he's in Texas. I forgot about him. So that's everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching us live. We're really looking forward to it. How you doing, Matt?
I'm good, man. We are at about 4.5 minutes until the draft. So we'll just give kind of folks an overview of what our plan is here for this live draft. Me and John will commentate about the first round and a half, give some analysis as we go here. It's going to be 3 minutes per pick. So we give folks a good amount of time to think about their picks. But as we go after the first round and a half or so, we're going to actually start bringing on some of the names we mentioned. So that's what I'm really excited about. We'll not only be talking the selections as we go here, we will share the draft board occasionally here. We'll put that up on the side to help folks follow along. But we're also going to get to talk to the best in the industry here when it comes to college fantasy football here today. So whether you're watching for the picks or watching for the analysis, it's going to be a pretty fun day here. And I'm excited for it. I got to tell you, I have no idea what I'm doing with my first pick yet. So we're going to wing it. We're going to hope for the best here, John. I imagine you probably have a little bit more of a laid out strategy, but perhaps you don't want to give it away being in the room with 7 other drafters.
I have 3 players that I am targeting with the 4th pick. I do know Malik Willis. I'm going to take a wild guess that Malik Willis will go first. So with the 4th pick, I have 3 players that I'm pretty comfortable with, but they are at different positions, which will mean my draft strategy will change on my first pick. So depending on who I grab right there at the top, will then structure my next 3 or 4 picks in the draft. After round 5, then I'm pretty much looking best player available, maybe position. I don't worry too much about positions later in the draft. I want the best players on the board. So I can go quarterback early. I could go running back early. I don't believe there's a wide receiver. I can say that everyone in the draft room could relax. I don't think there's a wide receiver worthy of the 4th pick. There might be some who do, but I don't believe at that spot I would take a wide receiver. So it's going to come down to a quarterback or a running back with the 4th pick overall. And let's do the top 4 picks. We have Josh leads us off. I've probably given away his pick, but I hope he doesn't mind. But we kind of all know the consensus top pick. We have JD is picking 2nd. Then we have Mike Bainbridge is picking 3rd. So, and then I would go 4th. And following me would be CFB Nick at Winning Edge. And then we are CFF Insiders Justin. Oh, everyone's in the draft room at Fantrax. And ladies and gentlemen, Canton to campus leagues are getting popular. We all know how popular the NFL draft is right now. Get into a college fantasy football draft. Don't be intimidated. I know it's 130 teams, but you don't have to play 130 teams. You could play Power 5 only. You could play Group of 5 only. Probably if you're the casual fan and you want to start this, play the Power 5. Because those will give you opportunities to watch the SEC, the Big Ten, the Pac-12. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're an NFL fantasy fan, this helps you become a better NFL fantasy fan. There's no question about it. So jump on board. Join a league this year, everyone.
All right, John, just about a minute here until our first selection. So we are ready to go ahead and kick off this draft. I am very excited. And I can tell you here, before we get into things, I have a couple tabs pulled up here on my 3rd monitor on the side. And one of them is absolutely John's rankings, which can be found on fantraxhq.com/college fantasy football rankings. So
that ain't right.
if you are drafting for the first time, you're not sure where to start. Fantrax, specifically John's rankings by position, are fantastic, and it will be a guide for you as well as me today. So I hope I can use your own rankings to snipe you a couple times, John.
That is one of the only things. If anyone who's ever posted rankings out on the Twitterverse, the universe, the internet, when you draft with people, there's oftentimes, and I have it in the NFL drafts and in college fantasy football, they use your ranking, so you have to learn how to zig and zag. But the great thing about this group is we have so many experts. We all have very different opinions on players and rankings, so that's kind of good. So there might be value down each individual's draft board that they like. And they get, and everyone, all of us, you can follow us on Twitter. You can, and almost all of us in this room have rankings somewhere available or some type of information to help you with a college fantasy football league. And the first pick is in.
John,
And
we're
my man Josh picked Malik Willis, quarterback, Liberty. Not a surprise, everyone. JD is up next.
Yeah,
there's a draft board.
Yep, John, I got the draft board showing up here as we go so folks can follow along if they're watching. And you can see here we have a quick run at the quarterback position. John does have 3 minutes to make this selection here. So I'll give a quick recap. We had Malik Willis of Liberty, to nobody's surprise, come off the board with the first selection. Quickly followed, no hesitation, from Mike Bainbridge drafting Spencer Rattler with his second pick. And then, that was with the third pick. Matt Corral came off the board with the second pick to JD. So a quick run of quarterbacks, and it looks like John's going to end that run making a running back selection here. He just talked about how the Longhorns were going to disappoint, but he is not afraid of Bijan Robinson, is he?
Hey, the Longhorns may disappoint from a one-loss record, but I have no doubt about Bijan Robinson. It would be malfeasance not to get that young man 300 touches. I don't see any way the Longhorns don't give him at least 275 carries. He should have between 30 and 50 receptions. I'll also be honest, I had wanted Matt Corral at number 4, so I've already gotten sniped and we're just into the draft.
John, we know.
but I'll also be honest. This is the first time I've had the opportunity to draft Bijan Robinson. This is my 12th draft, and I did want to be able to enjoy Bijan Robinson. So sometimes when you play in multiple drafts like we all do in this league, sometimes you might take a player because, you know what, he's a great player. I haven't been able to grab him on a team, so I'm very comfortable taking Bijan Robinson here at number 4. So who do we have after I went? We have Breece Hall went to CFB, winning edge, and Justin Heisley at CFF Insiders went DJ Ungalele.
Yeah, it looks like Justin went for Breece Hall, and then Jared took DJU, if I'm reading the board correctly here, John.
Oh, did I read it wrong?
I believe so. And then we're up with
the Natty Chasers, who are now debating in the room live.
Oh boy.
This is the only duo in our room today.
Give us the behind the scenes, John. What's the debate here? Can we
I don't know. They're being all secret.
Oh,
they got their pens. They got their pens active. Now they are SEC
David
Georgia
Bell.
guys.
Wow. Okay.
Who'd they take?
They went to the Big Ten. They took David Bell.
David Bell of the Big Ten to the SEC boys. All right, so our first wide receiver, and if you play college fantasy football, David Bell is a consensus first-round pick. There seems to be about 2 wide receivers taken in all college fantasy football drafts. David Bell is obviously one of them, so that's a great pick. So, my partner, Eric Froton, is now up at pick number 8? Followed by you, Matt. Oh, my God, Matt's on. Matt's freaking out. He doesn't know what to do.
I've got my choice.
Matt's got a selection.
I hope I don't get sniped on my choice.
He's hoping not to be sniped.
All right, here we go. All right, Kayshon Boutte was the 9th overall selection. And
our second wide receiver off the board. And I think in every draft, I bet you at least out of 10 of the 11 drafts, and now this would be the 12th. Boutte and Bell are the first 2 wide receivers, and in general, they're going to be the only 2. Sometimes a third wide receiver sneaks in, but those seem to be the consensus top 2 wide receivers in the first round there. Matt made a pick. Matt, who'd you take, my man?
I took my guy. Come on, John. I took my guy.
Sincere McCormick.
I got to take my guy. I was hoping for the running back position to start. I felt like I wanted to address that early. And I'm happy to get McCormick here. You know, that's my dude.
You do like Sincere McCormick, and I think I'm going to watch a lot of the Road Runners this year. I have a strange feeling if they're on TV, I'm going to be watching them. I like that Road Runners offense. And we have
Group of 5 selection coming up here, John. Jalen Tolbert out of South Alabama was the pick for John.
John Mckechnie with
Mckechnie. And
yeah.
then Kevin Brown gets Mo Ibrahim. And then I was kind of hoping Dustin Crum could make it back around to me. I guess that was probably hopeful thinking.
He did not make it back around, huh? Let's see, who took Dustin Crum?
That was Scott.
Scott, he's actually has his friend CK drafting with them. So they took Dustin Crum. And did they go back to back? They did, right?
Yep, and they got Khalil Shakur, one of my guys out of Boise State.
Excellent. You know what we're going to do for all those who are listening? Josh is going to come up, and he's our first guest. So we're going to bring him in when he has back-to-back picks. So Josh, hopefully he's getting our queue active. Matt, why don't we wait until the end of this round, and then we'll bring Josh in, and we can go live with Josh for back-to-back picks. How's that, my friend?
John, I got so focused on my first pick, I didn't think about my second pick.
Matt, you don't win the league in one round, my brother. Let's see. I'm coming up soon now. And ladies and gentlemen, so we're doing live in the room. I'm drafting off the iPad, and you're live with me on my laptop. So if you see me looking away to the iPad, I'm trying to get ready for my next draft pick here. So what I'm going to try to do is put some people in the queue right now.
Yeah, John, you're going to have to. I'm using my full clock here. You gave me 3 minutes, and I'm doing some. I'm double checking some research here. I'm between 2 guys.
I'll keep talking. So let's see. Let me recap where we are right now in this round while Matt's doing his research. We had to kick off the second round. We had wide receiver Khalil Shakur out of Boise State. Actually, this is 2 group of 5 wide receivers who have gone off in the top 13 players. John Mckechnie started with the first group of 5. That is Jalen Tolbert, the wide receiver from South Alabama who's getting NFL draft buzz. He's a legitimate NFL prospect right now. If you don't know him, check out Jalen Tolbert of South Alabama. Then Kevin Brown took Ronnie Rivers, the pass-catching back from Fresno State in the second round, and he paired it up. He had Mohamed Ibrahim in the first round from Minnesota, so he went back-to-back running backs, and John Mckechnie came back with running back Leedy Brown of West Virginia, who I know Mike's partner at the CFF site, Joe DeSilva, is very high on Leedy Brown. I like Leedy Brown too. He's also getting some NFL draft buzz. Matt, tell us who you took.
John, I was between a trio of running backs here. It was a pretty difficult choice for me, but I ended up going with Kyron Williams out of Notre Dame. I think he might get a little bit. I was going for the volume here, and I think he might end up with the most volume out of the 3 guys that I was debating between. So it was a pretty tough choice. I think I would have been happy with any of those running backs, but I kind of wanted to attack running back early in this draft, just looking at the board and how it's going to shake out. So we'll see if that pays off.
We have Eric Froton is up next. He's following the pick of Kyron Williams by Matt. Let's see who Mr. Froton takes with pick number 5 in the second round. Eric Froton. I love this. We have people building different rosters. We have Kevin Brown went back-to-back wide receivers, and Eric Froton went Kevin Brown went back-to-back running backs, and now Eric has gone back-to-back wide receivers with Keyshawn Boutte and Treylon Burks. So we see different roster construction, and I've done both of these methods. I've gone with both the running backs and the wide receivers with my top 2 picks. So we'll see how both of their teams unfold in this draft. And we have the Natty Chasers who are communicating awful. Everyone, if you were here live with us, these 2 guys have paper, pens, and they're talking in secret to the left of me right here. Let's see if they got who are they taking here.
John, this is a great time to point out a difference. Yeah. Oh, you got the pick in?
They got the pick in. They grabbed quarterback Sam Howell out of the University of North Carolina. So the Natty Chasers have gone David Bell, wide receiver, and then they followed up with their quarterback, Sam Howell, out of North Carolina. And my former teammate and friend, Justin Heisley of CFF Insiders, is on the clock now. Oh, and then we are going to be with Nick. So our man Josh is coming up, everyone, very soon. Josh is ready. He looks fired up. He's very focused, folks. He is one focused man in this room. I haven't even heard a peep out of my friend Nick, man. He is the most focused dude I've ever seen. He is on the computer. And our friend Justin, he took Calvin Austin. Now, don't ask me who's playing quarterback for the Memphis Tigers, but that doesn't seem to bother my friend Josh.
Whoa,
Justin,
whoa.
He wants
We
he
will
wants
not stand
his
for Grant Gunnell slander on this podcast. What in the world? Sir.
All right. So CFB winning edge is up now. I don't know who to draft. Nick doesn't know what to do. He's got 9 spreadsheets. Hey, Nick's got 9 spreadsheets. He doesn't know what to do. We're waiting for them.
Too many options here.
We have trade negotiations. Chaos has erupted in the live room. Now, here we go.
There we go. That was one of my options there. When I took Kyron Williams, I was thinking about Tank Bigsby as well.
Tank Bigsby. So I have an interesting pick here. I have taken a running back, Bijan Robinson. Tank Bigsby was at the top of my queue. So I was very interested in Tank Bigsby there. I'm going to start with the double running back build, not necessarily the way
I know who you're taking.
Not necessarily the way I wanted to begin the draft, but I'm going to go. Now, I have 2 players I'm very close here right now, but it is a full point PPR. So I'm going to go with the upside pass catching running back in this one.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go Jahmyr Gibbs out of Georgia Tech.
A little switch. That's not who I thought you were going for, but you're
I know you who I thought I was, but I think he's more of the running back in a half point or standard league. I might have gone in that direction. But at this point, Matt, I'm going to go with the pass catching upside. And Georgia Tech has a difficult schedule. What does that tell me? In the second half, they're going to be throwing the football. So I'm okay with Jahmyr Gibbs here because even though he might not get as many rushing yards, I think the pass catching is going to make up for it.
Yeah, I absolutely think you're correct about that. Now, John, it's interesting here. One of the differences that you're going to pick up on if you're, just experiencing this CFF draft style for the first time, I don't think we're going to see anybody most likely start quarterback, even though it's a 2-quarterback league, right? And it's a big difference between college fantasy football and Superflex formats for fantasy football is that the quarterback position is much, much deeper at the college level. And I think you're starting to see that play out here. A lot of running back starts, 1 wide receiver start, and a few mixes.
Also, Matt, we voted, if you are on Twitter and you follow any of us, we voted on the league rules. And one of the league rules, which was voted on by our fans, was a passing touchdown is worth 6 points. Because of that, there's a little bit more balance between the throwing quarterbacks and the running quarterbacks. So I also think that might push some of the quarterbacks down the board because you can get 30 touchdown upside. And the room is having a lot of fun. If you can hear me, everyone, we're having a blast here. Who did I miss? I missed the
Bryce
pick.
Young off the board.
Bryce Young, the Mike Bainbridge, who went double quarterback. So this is a very interesting first round and second round. We have
the curse of the commentator. He directly contradicted what I was saying, but I thought Bryce Young might slip back to me in the 3rd round. I guess it was a fool's hope, but I kind of was hoping he would make it back to me.
Yeah, we have a couple teams here. We have 3 rosters with a double running back build, 1 roster so far with a double quarterback build, and then Eric went double wide receiver. So we have people attacking this draft in very different ways. And we're actually, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have our first guest on today. We're going to bring Josh into the room to chat with us. He's now on the clock. for double back-to-back, and we'll let Josh talk and focus. Welcome aboard, Josh. How are you?
What's up, man? Hey, you took my boy Jahmyr Gibbs, so now I got to figure out what I'm doing while I'm on the clock, and I'm not a great multitasker, so this is going to be real interesting live. I'm definitely the first guy I'm going to go Josh Downs, but I'm not sure. I might need to take like all 5 minutes of this clock.
Use the clock, man. Don't feel bad. I use the clock.
Yeah, we'll see here. Definitely going to go Josh Downs, and then I'm gonna shore up. I wasn't gonna do this going in, but I'm gonna shore up quarterback here, and I'm gonna go Brennan Armstrong.
Okay.
Oh, now you got me back. Brennan Armstrong is in my queue. Oh, now I gotta find him if I want to go quarterback.
I've been trained to go quick, so I can't take up all 5 minutes on the clock. My bad. So to you, JD.
Hey, Josh, tell us a little bit about your strategy. Tell us what you do. I know you work for Fantasy Points. Give yourself some props. You're a great DFS expert for college fantasy football. Why don't you tell our listeners about yourself for a little bit?
Yeah. So I've written about DFS for a few years. Mike and I were working together over at his site, and then he decided he was going to go to greener pastures with CFF site, and so had to find some other gigs. So I'm over at Fantasy Points with those guys. They're great guys over there. So yeah, strategy wise, man, I'm either going QB or wide receivers early. So I just see a lot of value at running back, and being able to get them late is a lot of fun for me. I just see value in depth there. So you can see that here. I got Malik Willis, pretty obvious first pick, and then second one, Brennan Armstrong. Love the dual threat guys and with the good schedules. And then here with Josh Downs, I'm expecting a big year from him in the slot over there at UNC. So excited about that pick. I thought Mike was going to snipe me there, but he went Bryce Young. So
I like Josh Downs too. I think that's one of the earliest times, but you probably were banking on the fact that he's not going to come back around 24 picks later. And I'm a big believer. Ignore ADP if you want your guy. And when you're on the ends, you have to assume that other people in the room like a player as much as you do, especially on a Josh Downs-like talent. Yeah. And if you want to get him there, you got to go back-to-back, even if it's a little early. But now you've built a 1 wide receiver and 2 quarterback. So I would assume, do you feel pretty good dipping at the running back position later?
Yeah, I really like the 4th, 5th turn, the 4th, 5th rounds. I really like who I can get there versus wide receiver. I think you're going more Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson. Our boy Eric Froton is probably going to snatch him before the turn. With his 150 targets he's about to get this year at Ohio State. So, I love that London pick. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Gotcha. I like the way you built. Hey, I'm on the clock. Go ahead, talk to Josh here as I try to get my.
John's on the clock. Now, Josh, an interesting thing looking at your roster build here. Are you pretty? I mean, you're doing a little bit of projecting out as opposed to proven production. Is that something you're pretty comfortable with when building your roster?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, Josh Downs. I follow a lot of freshmen, so I do mainly dynasty, honestly. Yeah. And so I feel very comfortable with Josh Downs. What he did in the bowl game was nice, but then also just his pedigree, Under Armour All-American game or the Army Ball All-American game where he just dominated. So I'm expecting him to have a big year. And then Brennan Armstrong, I mean, kind of same thing. Like I just love his dual threat ability. He scored a lot of points, was in there last year. So hopefully he can stay healthy, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I know folks on the Virginia beat are excited about that offense much more than they have been the last few years. So I'm definitely excited to watch Brendan Armstrong in particular. And, certainly Josh Downs steps right into a role. And, John, you selected in the 3rd round the player that I thought you were selecting in the 2nd round. So you get Isaiah Spiller and Jahmyr Gibbs, a 3 running back start. How do you feel about building out your roster from there?
Well, I do feel pretty comfortable that I can get some quarterbacks who I'm comfortable with. So that's why I decided here I wanted to get 3 stud running backs because we can start the running back in the flex position. So, and I knew another reason I took Jahmyr Gibbs, but I didn't want to say it on my pick earlier. I knew the room in general is not as high on Isaiah Spiller as I am. So I figured that I could kind of manipulate the board a little bit and take Gibbs, and hopefully Spiller would fall to me. And Josh confirmed, because he said he wanted Jahmyr Gibbs. I really felt if I took Spiller in the second, there was zero chance that Jahmyr Gibbs is coming back to me. I said there's a pretty good chance that Isaiah Spiller could fall to me because I tend to be higher on him than others. I've been a big proponent of Spiller all off season, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, especially in a live draft like this. So I've been telling all my readers and all of my followers to draft Spiller. So I felt I like the 3 running back build. Not everyone does, but I'm very comfortable with that. So that's why I decided to go in that direction. And Josh, one other quick question for you. Do we have week 0 DFS salaries up anywhere? Is that up yet?
No, I don't think it's up yet. It's a killer.
I know, because that's got right. It's about 2 weeks. It's actually 2 weeks away, right? Yeah, kickoff is in 2 weeks. So I'm waiting for those early why do we not have college football DFS?
Right, exactly. Right. We need them up for sure.
Any last words, my man, Josh?
No, I don't think so. I'm excited for this draft. Thanks for inviting me in, guys, and we'll see what happens from here.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us, Josh, on this live stream and coming down.
All right. Good luck. Rest of the draft.
Hey,
I hope you finish in second place.
Why don't I recap, Matt, for a second? Because I took Jahmyr Gibbs, and then you had mentioned that Bryce Young. We're having a lot of noise, but that's okay. We have Mike Brainbridge, you had mentioned, took Bryce Young. I did not mention JD took Zakari Roberson, wide receiver of Wake Forest. And then Josh had mentioned Josh Downs and Brennan Armstrong. And then JD comes back, and he's going to come on the live stream very shortly. He came back with Drake London, the wide receiver. So JD has done the quarterback double tap at wide receiver. Mike Bainbridge came back. I love this stack. It's one of the favorites if you can put it together. He had Spencer Rattler in the first round, and he combined them with Marvin Mims in the third round. So if that Oklahoma offense goes nuts, Mike's in great position. Then I took Isaiah Spiller, CFB winning edge to Grayson McCall. We have a little rush on quarterbacks here. And then we had, CFF Insiders, Justin took Carson Strong, the quarterback out of Nevada. Now we're going to have a race. Don't tell anyone, but now it's a race for Cole Turner, either between our man Nick or our man Justin. So can Nick get Cole Turner before Justin pairs him up? And then we have the Natty Chasers. The Natty Chasers have made a decision. C.J. Stroud is the starting quarterback at Ohio State. So the Natty Chasers go with C.J. Stroud, and now they have Sam Howell and C.J. Stroud. And now we have Eric Froton on the clock, everyone.
No, Eric's made a selection. I'm on the clock.
Eric made a selection. Who did he take? Matt's on the clock. So as Matt is picking, let me see who Eric went with. Austin Jones, the running back of Stanford. So Eric dips into the running back pool after opening up with consecutive wide receivers, Keyshawn Boutte and Treylon Burks. I like Austin Jones a lot. Great system, 4-star prospect. He has not hit his ceiling yet at Stanford, but if anyone remembers a guy named Christian McCaffrey, we know what the upside could be. Now, I'm not saying Austin Jones is in the Christian McCaffrey talent level, but the scheme and the system are there. And Matt, did you make your choice?
Yeah, I went with UCF, former national champion UCF quarterback Dylan Gabriel. It was a really tough choice, John. There's actually another player that I'm really, really hoping makes it back around to me. But damn it, Kevin.
Who did Kevin take?
He took Eric Gray. I was really hoping Eric Gray would make it back around to me. Man.
I know Matt loves Eric Gray. He missed Can't wait on your guy, brother.
I know. You know what the thing? You know, I love Dylan Gabriel too. The only reason Gus Malzahn makes me a little nervous, man. I'm really hoping he doesn't screw things up. And then, gosh dang it, my backup plan was to stack with Jalen Robinson, and Scott just took him at the turn. So I am not having a good turn here, fellas.
I've noticed, it's funny lately in drafts. I've gotten Dylan Gabriel a bunch of times because I think all of us in the CFF industry are a little worried about the Gus Malzahn factor. I mean, for a quarterback who has been so good his first 2 years at the head of that Knights offense, he does seem to fall a little bit. I've been getting him in the 4th round. I can't pass up Dylan Gabriel when he's fallen to me in the 4th round. But obviously, you felt I like him too there, Matt, in the 3rd round. But it would have been nice if you could have gotten, his wide receiver, Jalen Robinson there. So let me recap. We've got a few picks since Matt went. Chris Rodriguez, running back of Kentucky, went to John Mckechnie. Eric Gray, Matt, was upset that Kevin Brown sniped him. And Kevin Brown and I have done the same roster build, the 3 running backs. Scott and CK did Jalen Robinson and Desmond Ridder, so I'm really mad that they took my man Desmond Ridder right there, so I hate you guys. And then we have Reggie Roberson, the wide receiver, went to Kevin Brown out of SMU. Oh, we just had another pick. John Mckechnie took Dwayne McBride, running back of UAB. So right now we have Matt Hicks, and why don't we bring on JD right now? We haven't had JD on. He's coming in. JD was drafting out of the number 2 hole. How you doing, JD?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
So why don't you tell us about your roster build, what you're thinking? Maybe you can give us a breakout player or a bold prediction or must-have player, something that you've been thinking during this draft. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us more about your roster build and stuff, JD?
Yeah, so my name's JD Yonke. Twitter handle's down there, Yonker CFB. So I've been approaching this draft. The scoring settings, I think, make a big difference with the 6-point passing touchdown and then full point PPR. So that's why I started with quarterback and then wide receiver. Felt like those were the most important bases to hit. So really glad I got the 2nd overall pick to snag one of the elite quarterbacks. So.
All right. Oh, Matt, are you on the clock right now?
Yeah, I'm debating here.
Oh, okay, no problem. So if you don't want to give away too much, JD, are you looking at best player available now? Or are you looking at position? What are you looking now that you have 2 wide receivers and a quarterback? And are you comfortable waiting at the running back position?
Yeah, I think running back in this format, I already think it's a pretty deep position. And since I know I'm not going to get one of the top guys anyway, because that was not my draft strategy, I think we're just going to see who falls to me. I think it's a pretty deep position. You see some pretty good guys still going in like the 8th round, running backs. Not exactly anybody I want as my RB1. So I'll probably take one here if a good one falls to me. If they don't, I don't know, might end up with a little bit of an unbalanced roster. But with full point PPR and 2 flex guys, you can start 5 wide receivers if you want to. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see who falls.
So are there running backs, and obviously you don't want to give names at this point. Are there running backs who you are targeting, like you say in round 7, I would really like this player to fall to me at running back? Because I know there is value in round 6 to 9 at running back. Are there players that you feel really good about?
Yeah, there's a few that I feel really comfortable as kind of having it as a weekly starter. There's a few guys I have circled. So we'll see if they last. I'm not going to give any names here. Don't want to give it away. I'm sure everybody knows who the running backs are to be circling. But yeah, I'm just kind of hoping they fall. If they don't, I'll probably look at my roster and really wish I went running back earlier. But, it's just the luck of the draft. You got to hope some guys you're expecting to be there 6th, 7th, 8th rounds actually make it there. So please let them get to me. I would appreciate it.
The only thing
RB by committee, running back by committee.
The only reason why I get nervous starting 3 running backs is I tend to agree with you that there is value, and I'm probably going to have to avoid that value at the running back position. But because now we have you. Oh, look at that. Look at on the turn. Mike Bainbridge, JD, and Josh are all going to be scooping up that running back value, which is fine. but it's prevented me from going for that value the way I've roster built. I'm probably going to have to hold off on those middle round running backs and hope some fall to me in round 10, 11. But I've done I like that. It's the difference. So if you play NFL fantasy and college, the great part about college is there is more depth and there is value further in the draft. If you go to round 10 in an NFL fantasy football draft, there's not a lot of value at running back. In college fantasy football, there's ton. Matt, I just noticed you took a pick. Who'd you take, Matt?
Yeah, I went with Doubs out of Nevada here. I went with the wide receiver pick, tried to balance off my roster a little bit. Kind of exactly what you were talking about. There was a running back that I was interested in. I'm hoping he can make it back to the 5th round, but I just wanted a little bit more balance there at the wide receiver position. And it kind of fits an overall draft strategy, which I guess I won't go too far into yet. But, it's coming together in a way that I've imagined previously, whether that's for the better or not.
Hey, JD, do you have any plans this year that you want to talk about? Like, what are you doing for college fantasy football? I know you're doing Campus to Kansas. Tell the listeners how they can get Campus to Canton or Campus. What do you call? I'm sorry.
Campus.
Campus to Canton. How they can get the podcast?
Yeah, it's on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's linked in my Twitter bio. If you follow, it's a website that's linked. So that's the main thing. Me and Kevin Brown. Kevin's also in this draft. We'll be doing that weekly. And then also I have a YouTube DFS show. So you'll see me every week hitting college football DFS if you're interested in playing that. I got some good info for you. That should be coming out every Thursday night. So
awesome. I'm on the clock here, so I'm going to make a pick. But I had 2 players in the queue, and you know what? Nick took one of them. I mean, come on, people. Nick just grabbed Jahan Dotson, wide receiver out of Penn State, which means I'm going to pivot. I'm going to go Zay Flowers out of Boston College.
Nice.
I like Zay Flowers in that passing game. I think he's a solid NFL prospect. I think he's clearly the alpha male on Boston College. Sleeper quarterback Phil Jerkovich is clearly good enough to get Zay Flowers the football. I do think Boston College will be playing from behind often, so I like that. So I'm taking Zay Flowers. And let me recap quickly because we missed some picks here for our listeners. Just before I took Zay Flowers, Nick took Jahan Dotson, who I also actually had in the queue. I just mentioned I liked him a ton. CFF Insiders, Justin took Corey Rucker, wide receiver, Arkansas State. The Natty Chasers take their first running back. I wasn't able to talk about that. They took Jalen Berger, running back out of Wisconsin. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're banking on system, you're banking on offensive line, Jalen Berger is your guy. Yes, last year, he did not pop. He had some interesting runs, but in general, he didn't live up to expectations. If Jalen Berger is going to explode, this is the year. Great in the 4th round. And Eric just left the room for a second. He took Cincinnati running back Jerome Ford off the board. I think that's right now we are in round 4. Pick number 4, Mike Bainbridge is up. Anything else you'd like to tell the listeners? Oh, how about this, JD? Bold predictions, biggest disappointment, or must-have player?
Yeah, not one for bold predictions, but I was able to cook one up for the show. And I'm on the clock here, so sorry if I go in and out. I said that KJ Jefferson, quarterback for Arkansas, is going to finish as a top 10 CFF quarterback.
I like that one.
Oh, that feels spicy.
That's spicy, dude. We got to put that up on Twitter.
Dump it off at the line of scrimmage to Burks, and you'll be all right.
Yeah. You just do that and then stumble forward into, 10.
Oh, JD's live too. We got JD. We're putting the pressure on JD.
I know. I'm not sure who I'm taking.
He's going to accidentally draft KJ Jefferson. Yeah, he's going to it's going to be in his head. He'll just Freudian slip right into that draft position.
All right, let's go with Xavier Valade. I need a running back.
That's a good pick. Out of Wyoming, that's definitely a good pick. Consistently high productive selection there.
Oh, yeah.
And his first running back.
And John, to get back to your biggest disappointment, I know you're just talking about Jalen Berger, but that's a guy I don't think I have a single share of him. So if he gets the job and he gets a lot of volume, I think he's going to be fantastic. But so I think he's good value depending where you get him. But I see him going like really, really early in some drafts, second round sometimes. And I don't know.
I think it's too early, second round.
Yeah. I just think I'm not convinced he's the guy. I mean, I guess he was a freshman last year, so we can give him a little bit of a pass, but definitely didn't seem to grab the job. So if he grabs the job this year, it'll be amazing. If he doesn't, it might seem like a wasted pick. So some more spice for you.
Excellent. I love it, dude. That's what we wanted. And now we're on the turn. So, JD, thank you for showing up. It's been amazing that you made it all the way out here. We appreciate it. It's been a great draft with you. Good luck moving forward. Hopefully not too much good luck in the regular season. Ladies and gentlemen, we haven't said this to all our viewers, but we are playing for a championship belt. The winner of this league, I've ordered the belt. I've seen a picture of the belt, but it hasn't arrived yet. But the champion is going to be mailed a championship CFF Kings Classic championship belt. And they are going to get a T-shirt when they are done also in the mail. So that's what we're playing for. We are playing. This is not a mock draft. This is a real draft. And before my friend Matt comes back, I want to say we never explained this. We are 2 quarterback league, 2 flex positions. We also no kickers, no defense. The internet voted against kickers and defense. So we're not drafting those, and it's a full point PPR. So if you want to know the structure of how we are building our rosters, that's how we are building. What's up, Matt? How you doing over there in Maryland?
Hey, we're still surviving over here. We're piecing our team together a little bit here as we have to start digging a little bit deeper in the draft. And John, it's pretty interesting. I think when it comes to the CFF game, you have to be these picks here in rounds 5 through 10 are still very, very critical to your roster build. So you got to be really intentional, really smart with the way you play it.
Let me tell you, I'm coming up and I'm getting sniped right and left. I had 2 guys in my queue, Calvin Turner, and you took him on me, Josh. I'm so mad. And John Mckechnie, the wide receiver, JD just took the other wide receiver. So I'm up in 2 picks. So I got to figure out what I want to do here now. Oh, you took Calvin Turner. I read it wrong. All right. It's hard to draft. You know what? I have all new respect for anyone who hosts a fantasy draft live. And let me tell you, it is a chore to host. Upstairs, I have to look. So, Matt, you take the floor for a second while I figure out who I want.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like Chris Olave is off the board here in the 5th round for Mike, which is a pretty interesting selection. I'm a big Olave fan. I definitely had my eye on him. And unless I'm wrong, I think he is the first of the Ohio State wide receivers to come off the board. And speaking of first, John just took the first tight end to come off the board here. Nevada's Cole Turner. So you're going to have to explain that, John. You feel confident enough for him to be tight end 1 off the board?
So he's not my number 1 right tight end, but I've done 11 drafts, and I do not have Cole Turner anywhere. Plus, I know in this room that there are people who love Cole Turner, and Justin had drafted Carson Strong. So I was worried that between Justin and the other players who love Cole Turner, he would never reach back to me. So in this draft, I decided I wanted shares of 2 players who I'm high on, but I haven't gotten any shares of. Bijan Robinson and Cole Turner. So now I get to walk out of this draft. I'm comfortable roster building lots of different ways. I do think between NFL fantasy football, college fantasy football, you have to be comfortable building your rosters with different strategies. Because remember, you're always competing with everyone in the room, right? So you may want to do one thing, but your competitors may stop you from doing it. So I decided this spot, I don't want to dig at tight end. I don't want to search for a tight end. So let me do a different roster build, 3 running backs and a tight end, and let me see how I can build from here.
All right, John, I like the move here. It certainly got a reaction out of the room here. I can see backstage, and I could see there were multiple folks that jumped up from the computer with the Cole Turner selection. I believe I saw some hand gesturing.
There's hand gesturing, anger in the room. We're having snipes all over the place in here.
Deuce Vaughn off the board.
Eric did love Travell Harris. There's no.
There is screaming in the draft room, folks. This is what you love to see here.
Oh yeah, we're having a blast. Hey, even though the reality is most of us probably draft online, but there's still something special about a live draft, everyone. We're having a blast in here. We're sniping each other left and right. Let's recap a little bit. After I took Cole Turner, you probably heard the screaming. Travell Harris, Washington State, went to Nick at CFB winning edge, and Justin Heisley went to CFF Insiders. What we'll do is, Mike Bainbridge. Why don't we bring on Mike Bainbridge now? If he is right, he's the third one up. We'll wait till Mike sits back down. We're going to bring Mike Bainbridge in the room if he's ready to go pretty soon. He looks like he's getting his earpiece on. All right, can you bring Mike Bainbridge in, my man?
All right, Mike, welcome in.
Good to have you, Mike. Great to see you. I know if you guys don't know Mike Bainbridge, him and Joe DeSilva do incredible work at the CFF site. They're all over Twitter. They host best ball drafts. They do season-long drafts. They do break it down by conferences. Their podcast is a must-listen when you're doing conference breakdowns. I've had the pleasure to know Mike and Joe for at least 6 years as huge college fantasy football fans. Mike, welcome in. Why don't you introduce yourself and describe your team, what your strategy is so far for our listeners?
John, it looks like Mike's mic is not connected. It looks like we're having some technical issues in Canton here. So.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to get some water from my son for a second. Go to the front asking that.
Yeah, so it looks like we're working through Mike getting his mic connected here. But I mentioned the first Ohio State wide receiver to come off the board earlier in this round, and we did just have Garrett Wilson selected off the board for the Natty Chasers. So it looks like the big two veteran wide receivers for the Buckeyes are both off the board.
All right, Mike, are you in now?
Nope, we're still working on the tech
okay,
side.
no problem, everyone. Sorry about that. So I'm trying to think where we are. All right, Garrett Wilson went off. Eric Froton, I think he made his pick.
He did. He took Justin Ross, who
he took Justin Ross. I had him at the top of my queue.
So
that's a great Justin pick Ross. Here.
Yeah, that's.
So as we get Mike, I see Mike's muted. So Nick and Mike are working furiously on getting Mike hooked up there. Everyone, be patient, everyone. This happens all the time. Anyone who's ever done a live draft, we know the struggle is real, everyone. Let me go down. I'm going to look through the queue right now, Matt, as I have to get ready for some players who we're still working on that. Where are we? We are looking at Matt, you're on deck, so I'll let Matt think.
Yeah,
let me recap Matt's draft for all of our listeners. Matt opened up with back-to-back running backs, Sincere McCormick and Kyron Williams. Then he went Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback from UCF, and he followed it up with Romeo Doubs, the wide receiver from Nevada. So Matt's on deck, and I think we're still looking. We'll be bringing Mike Bainbridge on as soon as we can get him here. I'm going to give Matt a chance to draft his player here. It looks like Matt has got someone. Ooh, Matt, Mississippi Jerron Ely. Nice pick there. Now Matt has also got a 3 running back build. So we are still waiting. Matt, tell us why you took Jerron Ely there.
Yeah, you know what? It was a little higher than I originally thought. I was actually kind of locked in on Justin Ross here with this pick. I wanted to get that second wide receiver. So I had to scramble a little bit. And I decided with the PPR format, for me, I can't get enough of Lane Kiffin's offense. So if I can get a piece of Lane Kiffin's offense, especially a PPR back in the 5th round, and, I didn't want to go 3 running backs this early, but I saw some pretty good value there with Jerry and Ely. There's a wide receiver that I almost selected, but I feel fairly confident I can get him in the 6th. And if not, there's a quarterback I'm willing to take. So with some good backup options here, I went and I got one of my guys for this season, Jerry and Ely. I think in terms of all-purpose yards, we're easily going to be over 1,000 with Ely this year. So could be much higher.
they're one of the most explosive offenses in college fantasy football with Matt Corral pulling the trigger. And Jerron Ely in a PPR draft even has more value. Mike, are you all set? We think Mike's ready to come on.
Nah, I still got no mic for Mike, unfortunately.
We have them on mute. Okay. We're going to try to bypass.
Let's get Mike in front of somebody else's laptop when he's not drafting.
JD,
I don't know.
can Mike sit at your laptop for a second? Can he go on? So can you still? No, laptop.
We're gonna play some musical chairs.
All right. So
here.
Sorry about that, Matt. Zip out of the Mike Bainbridge and jump into JD. So he's going to go into JD. There we go. Thank you. Sorry about that. Hey, anyone who's done a live draft know there's always some technical difficulties, but it's all good. The important part is we get the great guests. They give us great information, and we're still drafting away. So while Mike gets set up there, I'm going to recap a little bit since Matt Hicks took Jerron Ely. Then we had John Mckechnie. He took Hines Tyler. Kevin Brown took Jalen Kropner, Fresno State. Scott and CK took Kevin Harris and Ulysses Bentley back-to-back for the double running back build. And then, Kevin Brown. He is the first one to take John Reese Plumbing, wide receiver, Mississippi. All right, I think we got Mike on now. Mike, can we get Mike on?
His mic is still not working. It's the AirPods, man. I think it's the AirPods. It's still
the
not
AirPods?
I don't think they're connected to the computer properly.
We think the AirPods are probably not connected properly.
But now I got to make my selection. So,
all right, we're going to bypass. We'll keep going for a little while. We'll try to figure out if we can get Mike on later. Thank you, JD, for having us. So we'll try to get Nick Allen would be coming on next. We're going to try to get Nick Allen up here all set. Give us a couple minutes to get Nick Allen. JD, if you could punch out of there by any chance. So I have to admit, this is the first time I've seen John Reese Plumlee ever go this early. We do know. Yeah, I mean, so all of us who have been playing college
eligible too.
Yeah, I mean, this summer we've probably done close to 100 drafts in this room, I would assume. And Eric and I haven't seen him. Eric's right. Eric even didn't me one up. I haven't seen him go all summer. So obviously Kevin feels pretty confident that John Reese Plumlee is going to be playing a lot. We should have Kevin on later in the day, and he can tell us why he was willing to draft John Reese Plumlee in round number 6. After John Reese Plumlee, we have John Mckechnie with quarterback Jack Hayner of Fresno State. Matt Hicks took his next pick, Jaden Whaley, wide receiver, Mississippi State. Eric Froton took George Halani, running back out of Boise State. And we now have the Natty Chasers on. And if we can get Matt is Nick in the chat in the back room. Why don't we bring Nick on now?
Yeah, we'll get Nick on here. It looks like we're in movement here, moving around the draft room. But we'll pull in Nick here, and we're live with Nick.
There's our man, Nick. Nick, can you hear us, my man?
Hey, guys.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this time we have our guest, Nicholas Ian Allen of the CFB Winning Edge. If you don't know Nick, you got to follow him on Twitter there at CFB Winning Edge. You've got to get his projections. They are amazing. They're in depth. He does all 130 teams in college fantasy football. My buzzer just went off, so I'm going to give it to Matt Hicks for a second. Or Nick, why don't you introduce yourself, as I see you just made a pick and I'm on the clock now.
Yeah, we've been trying to get it figured out logistically on our Mike was using my computer, and then the AirPods weren't connecting, and so I figured I'd hop out into the hallway and just use the computer mic and a microphone using the built-in one. So we'll see if this works. Hopefully it will. If it does, maybe Mike can try again later. But CFB Winning Edge. We operate on Patreon, patreon.com/CFB Winning Edge. It's a lot more than what your average CFF person might, have a need for, but we do full depth charts for all 130 FBS teams, stat projections, win projections for projected point spreads, all that good stuff. There's a lot that we offer. Too much maybe to completely hijack your show. So.
Oh no, Nick, we love to hear you. You're doing great stuff. I know we were joking in the room before we came on. Nick, tell everyone who you are highly invested in your favorite prop team bet. I love this. And he's actually right. So that's why I want Nick to sell us on this. It's a great prop bet. Tell everyone what your prop bet of the year is, my friend.
Oh, well, I am a little too invested in UMass over 1.5 team win total this year. Some people have invest in Bitcoin, some people market, all that good stuff. I am highly leveraged in UMass over 1.5 shares so far.
Well, I'll tell you Nick, what, I pulled up the schedule here, and they play UConn, so that's a damn good start.
They also, didn't you say, Nick, they play 2 FCS level schools?
They do. They play Rhode Island and Maine. They also play New Mexico State. My projections, they change a lot because I do updates on injuries and transfers and all that good stuff. And I do updates throughout the off season. So I just did our final update, major update with kind of turning the knob up on our stat projections. So actually my UMass projections are getting worse and worse. I only actually have them favored in one regular season game. They're currently 2-point underdogs against both Maine and Rhode Island. So, a touchdown underdog against New Mexico State.
Oh my God!
They're favored over UConn. So
I love that. But look this is when you're doing team prop bets. Everyone wants to go high up the board, right, Nick? They all want to bet on Clemson, Alabama, over 11 wins, over 10.5 wins. But there's a lot of value, Nick. Isn't there, when you're looking at 138 teams, you're going down the board. Isn't there value and opportunity for prop bets late going at 2 wins, 3 wins on those types of bets? Don't you like that level?
Yeah, I mean, you can invest as little or as much as you want. So you can if you see an edge, if you think you have an edge, there's certainly some opportunity, especially for teams that not as many people know enough about. So there's definitely some value to be had at the lower end of the spectrum. If you identify a team as being the worst in college football, you can use that to your advantage. If you just happen to know a team or a conference better than the market, or better than the odds makers, what have you, there's definitely some value to be had. And for me, we do all 130 teams, and every once in a while something pops out that just seems a little bit different than other folks out there. Really smart folks just do things a different way. And so sometimes we see a little value in a team like UMass. And I'm not, I'm getting less and less confident about it. It is going to be, it's not going to be easy to get the especially since they might not have a chance to win a game until week 8 or 9. But yeah, I think you can definitely identify some teams, and for CFF, specific players that maybe fly a little under the radar because they play for some teams that aren't very good or just don't, get a lot of recognition or what have you.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to get Nick's stuff at CFB Winning Edge. It is amazing. He breaks down every player on all 130 teams. It is spectacular. I'm actually up now. So Matt, or Nick, why don't you review your team with all of our viewers as I come up here now? Let me look. I have to make a pick.
Yeah, well, I took Breece Hall with the 5th overall pick, which was a surprise to me. Basically, any mock I had been a part of early on, any best ball I had done previously, Hall had been, anywhere from the 2nd to I think maybe the farthest before that I had seen him and been part of was maybe 4th. So to get him at 5th was, and now I'm up. was kind of a no-brainer, and certainly happy to have him. And for whatever reason, running back still the top player on my board in the second round when it came around with the 20th pick was Tank Bigsby. I like Jamar Gibbs a bit more. So you had taken him and was a little sad to see that, but I do like Gibbs, good player. I don't necessarily have a strategy when I come in. It's usually just best guy on the board those first one or two rounds and fill it out from there. But I figured I needed to turn to quarterback. Grayson McCall is higher on my board than a lot of people, so he was a pretty easy decision for me at number 3. And then eventually I'm going to have to start drafting some receivers, especially in a PPR league. So I'm looking for some guys that should get a lot of targets. Jahan Dotson, pretty clear number 1 at Penn State. Travell Harris, especially with Renard Bell going down with a season-ending injury. Unfortunately, early this fall, think that he's going to be in a spot to be targeted maybe as much as anybody in college football, especially the way they throw the ball around and those slot guys get a lot of targets. So felt pretty good about that. But then from here on out, it's basically just gonna be going off my CFF rankings and best player on the board. Try to make sure I'm not going to have any major weak spots, major holes. But lastly, it definitely hurt my heart to see you take Cole Turner to do that. But you know what? I respect it, and you paid the price getting him in the 5th round. So kudos to you. But he's definitely someone that I'm associated with in our little group, at least. Have been pretty vocal, thinking that he's the best CFF tight end in the country. And like to certainly have fun with that, but was a little hurt that you took him before I was able to.
Like I said, I have not had any shares all season, and I said I just want to have a chance at enjoying Cole Turner because I will be scouting Carson Strong and Romeo Dubs throughout the season. That I already have a list of games that I'm scouting, and Nevada's at the top of the list because Carson Strong is clearly an NFL level draft prospect. And Nick, we just saw you took wide receiver Jordan Addison, right? I don't think Nick was live when Jordan Addison went off the clock. So that was his 7th round pick. And my last 2 picks, Nick and I are similar. We need a lot of wide receivers at this point. So I took Ty Freifogel, the wide receiver, the returning Big Ten wide receiver of the year. I like his value in round 7, especially as I hear more and more Michael Penix. The reports coming out of Indiana are getting more positive as we get closer to the season. So I'm very happy about getting Ty Freifogel here. We had Bailey Zappi went to Justin of the CFF Insiders. Ty Chandler, running back, went to the Natty Chasers. So they went late with the running backs, but the Natty Chasers have gotten 3 running backs. Jalen Berger, we talked about before. Tyler Algier out of BYU, and Ty Chandler. Matt, can you refresh the page there? I think our live page is behind the draft. We're further along than the board is showing right there.
If we are, I'm on the clock.
There you go. All right.
And John, Ty Chandler is stepping into about 2,500 vacated yards in that offense, in a 4-year starter there, 4-year contributor, I should say, for the Vols. So, in the 7th round, that's a really sneaky good pick. And certainly, talking about Bailey Zapp out of Western Kentucky, I am so excited to watch him, the transfer from Houston Baptist. And he's coming in with his offensive coordinator there playing for the Hilltoppers. So some really interesting, storylines still coming off the board here in the 7th round.
Absolutely. I think when you're talking about ceiling player, ceiling running back, So, Nick, why don't you tell your listeners, when we have someone like Ty Chandler and he's a transfer coming into a new system, so you obviously have to look at this man, you have to look at opportunity. Matt was talking about opportunity. What do you foresee a player, a transfer like Ty Chandler, who with Michael Carter and Javonte Williams going off the NFL, what do you have a player like him projected at?
Yeah, so Chandler specifically found a really, really great spot. You know, it can be boom or bust, certainly when you're looking for a transfer coming in with just a one season, finding a new situation. Chandler had shared carries a lot at Tennessee the last couple of years with Eric Gray, and seems to be moving in a situation where he's, you know, the clear guy to you know, step in and take over for what was an incredibly productive you know, couple of running backs there, and I know they've got some excited about young guys coming up, a few freshmen that North Carolina is excited about. So it's not like Chandler will just completely dominate you know, carries and targets out of the backfield, but he's in a position to get you know, a lot of them, especially early on, in an offense that utilized the running back incredibly well as a position last season. So I think that you can trust Ty Chandler a little more than maybe some you know, some first year transfer running backs coming in to where maybe they might have, you know, more competition immediately to get to the top of the depth chart, or wide receiver playing in a different position at a you know, previous program, maybe change in style. It can be a little tricky to translate. How is this guy, you know, really going to fit in? But Ty Chandler specifically, I think, is a situation about as good as you could hope for a first-year transfer going into a new offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great value here, right? I agree with you completely, Nick. So, Nick, do you have the biggest disappointment or a well, you've done bold prediction with your UMass. How about a must-have player other than Cole Turner, the tight end, and the biggest disappointment you have this year for our listeners?
Well, so disappointment might end up being UMass. We'll see. But you know, somebody I've talked a little bit about quarterbacks that, and not just quarterbacks, but there's certainly some other players who I guess just a little bit of a late adopter. Some of the folks, you know, in this particular draft are more willing to you know, jump on a guy that has a very small sample size, just because they, you know, have so much trust in whether it's a particular position in an offense or what have you. But there are some first-year starters that just at the price that it takes to get those guys, I just haven't been willing to go there. So that includes, you know, basically can't miss prospects you would expect, guys like Bryce Young and DJ Uiagalelei. I'm sure they're going to be awesome players, great players, but I just feel a little more comfortable going with guys that I've been able to see, you know, whether it's 100 snaps or 4 or 5 starts or what have you. And I know with DJ we got a chance last year, but for whatever reason, I'm just, you know, slow on the trigger for those guys like Josh Downs, who looked awesome in the bowl game, hearing, you know, great things coming out of spring practice, but I don't have a single share of Josh Downs just because
I
don't know if I can trust it quite yet. I'm not willing to pay the price as high as he's going. So players like that, you know, not a specific player I think would be disappointing, but I guess I'm afraid of going too much out on a limb of a guy that I just don't have completely figured out quite yet. So I'm just a little slow on some of those guys. And
so, ladies and gentlemen, Nick's going to draft here now, and then I'm coming up. So we'll give Nick a chance. And I understand if you've listened to Nick or if you follow him, Nick is a little bit like me. I'm a little bit of a prove it guy also. So I understand that, Nick, but I think sometimes, and you're right, if you want a guy who proves it, you're probably going to have to overpay. And I think you made a great example out of Josh Downs. I'm on the clock. Nick, why don't you say or promote anything you want just before you go? Thanks for that. Those disappointments. And let me take my pick now, everyone.
Yeah, if you're interested in taking a look at what we do, patreon.com/CFB Winning Edge. We do have a weekly podcast. We've been going through conference by conference, very much a long form. We do, we've had a few conferences over 3 hours in our previews. Can be a little bit ridiculous, but we do definitely get into the details, and we do write up notes with some rankings and players to know and things like that for each conference preview. Those are available to all of our Patreon supporters, and then the big thing is if you're a tier 2 Patreon supporter, we have what I call our FBS Team Profiles, 130 individual team pages, full depth charts. We keep track of injuries, transfers, stats, advanced stats, regular counting stats, all kind of good stuff, unit ratings. It's about as in-depth and hopefully up-to-date and complete of a depth chart as you're going to find anywhere. I think that's one of the things that we do just about as well as you could hope for. So that probably would be the biggest, value for CFF folks, is that depth chart portion. And then we do have rankings and things like that as well. But patreon.com/CFB Winning Edge and the CFB Winning Edge podcast if you want to learn a little bit more about the things that we do.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming on. Everyone, I'm telling you, got to follow Nick on Twitter. You got to get his Winning Edge. If you love prop bets, love college fantasy football, Nick's stuff weekly is incredible, everyone. Thank you, Nick. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Nick. Awesome, man. And this board, John, this board is heating up here. I could see in the background folks jumping around in the back. I think maybe the Quentin Johnston pick got a reaction out of the crowd.
Yes, Quentin Johnston pick got a massive reaction from the crowd. I think Jason Natty was pretty upset about that pick. You know what I'm going to do quickly for our viewers? We haven't recapped the draft in a while. I had talked about Ty Chandler. Since Ty Chandler has gone off, I can read it here now. Let me get to a different page. So in round number 7, pick 8, Eric Froton took Dorian Thompson-Robinson, quarterback. Matt followed it up with Jalen Weidenmeyer, the tight end, Texas A&M. Then we had John Mckechnie took Jack Sorensen out of Miami of Ohio, wide receiver. We had a wide receiver run here. Jarrett Stearns, wide receiver, Western Kentucky. Tyrese Ritchie from Scott and CK, NIU. Love Tyrese Ritchie. Scott and CK followed it up with another wide receiver, Jair Shorter. Jarek Broussard, running back out of Colorado, went to Kevin Brown. John Mckechnie came back with Lane Hatcher, quarterback of Arkansas State. Matt, you took Zakari Franklin, wide receiver, one of my favorite players this year from the Roadrunners.
Roadrunners, baby, 2 UTSA players.
Yes, Eric Froton got Natty Chayers upset with taking Quentin Johnson. Natty Chasers, I know both the Natty Chasers and I love Sam Pickney, wide receiver, Georgia State. CFF Insiders took Tyler Goodson, the running back out of Iowa. CFB Winning Edge took Greg Dolich out of UCLA. I took Preston Hutchinson, quarterback out of Eastern Michigan, my first quarterback. Mike Brainbridge sniped me. I wanted Mac Johnson as my second quarterback, but Mike beat me to him out of LSU. Then we had JD with Greg Bell. JD was talking about those running backs he's comfortable. I love Greg Bell also, so he grabbed him. Josh took another favorite running back, Chris Smith, out of Louisiana Lafayette. Mike Harley went back to Josh with Miami wide receiver Mike Harley. Sky Moore went back to JD, the wide receiver from Western Michigan. I'm actually on the clock, So let me see who I'm going to take now. Matt, tell us how your draft's going for the listeners.
Yeah, it's piecing together slowly but surely. Was glad to take Wademeyer with my 7th round selection because I kind of just wanted to get a tight end and get it out of the way with, and now I'm not going to worry about the tight end position again until potentially the last round of the draft. But I think I'm pretty much going to just ride it out with Wademeyer, get that really consistent production. I mean, you look at the Aggies offense, and I think he's going to be the number 1 receiving option. So to get that at the tight end position, I think is great. And then I've been trying to just really, balance out the early running back start with wide receivers that I think are going to be high volume potential. Zakari Franklin should be, the volume guy for the Roadrunners. I think Wally has a similar opportunity there in the Mike Leach offense to be a high volume guy. So, I think the consistent trend here is I'm chasing volume, even with a quarterback like Dylan Gabriel. So I'll definitely need to round out the quarterback position at some point here, but I think it's an overall pretty balanced approach through 8 rounds.
Absolutely, Matt. I like how you've been drafting. It's a solid draft roster build. I just took my 2nd quarterback, Max Duggan, out of TCU.
Looks like we lost John's feed here. John, I don't know if you can hear our feed, but we cannot hear your feed. Yeah, guys in the room here, you might want to tell John we lost his feed. Yeah. Let's see here. We'll get John back. I think John's pick was so good. The Max Duggan pick just knocked off his audio. It was just so thrown by him. All right, so we're gonna figure out. We're gonna get John back in this thing here in a second. While John figures that out, we had another quarterback go off the board in Miami's De'Aaron King. De'Aaron King, without the injury, probably would have been a lot higher of a selection, but certainly in the 9th round, he becomes a pretty interesting selection there. David Bailey, formerly of Boston College, now at Colorado State, the running back there should have a high volume role. So in the 9th round, that's a great selection there by the insiders. And DeMonte Tugel out of Ohio is maybe what we'll do here is go down the board and bring in our next guest while we try to get John in, which should be Justin. Let's check backstage. Justin, are we ready to go? Looking for him. Looks like we'll wait for John to maybe get back in, because I need to make a selection here. About 30 seconds into my clock. Oh, Phil Dracovic went in front of me. That's disappointing. I'm a big Dracovic fan. That would have been a nice guy to get here with my selection. Instead, I'm going to go for an upside pick here. Okay, that sounds good. Yep, looks like we're getting John reset. All right, so I'm going to go for an upside pick here. Wait, has he already been selected? No, he has not. All right. I'm going to go with Georgia Tech's Jeff Sims. Certainly no guarantee here, but he's got all the tools, and he kind of needs to take a little bit of a step forward, especially with those interceptions, to be a good selection here in the 9th round. But you know what? At the end of the day, I think we got to roll the dice a little bit here. So what I think we're going to do here with John down, let's go ahead. Let's jump to our next guest here, and we'll go ahead and we'll pull in Justin. It looks like Justin, we pull it in here. CFF Insiders. Can you hear me all right, man?
Oh, yeah.
All right, good. I got you here. We lost Lob, but we're happy to welcome you in as well. Joining us, not from Canton as well, so we're both doing the long distance, but glad you could join us here today.
Oh, yeah. Glad to be here. Glad to be a part of it.
Absolutely, man. So before we jump into any draft strategy, any of that, give us a little bit of a rundown, man, of CFF Insiders, what we're providing here and what we can do for the listeners.
Basically just what we got going on, basic offseason stuff, player rankings, conference previews, things of that nature, letting you know who's leaving, let you know who's coming in, and let you know who stayed. Throughout the season, the goal is to provide weekly player rankings to help out with things like DFS, or if you're just like, I don't know if I should start this guy or this guy, and we'll try to help you out with that, as well as waiver wire stuff. The plan sometime this weekend is to get involved on Twitch, maybe doing a weekly Twitch stream as well. So that's kind of what we have going on right now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I should point out, if you're not following CFF Insiders on Twitter, really great source of news. It's really great to have in your Twitter feed to keep you updated on what's going on. If you're, just kind of overwhelmed by all the news, they do a great job of that. And also live tweeting all of the picks from the Kings Classic. So if you want to recap, definitely appreciate you got all these photos ready to go on deck, huh? Keeping up well.
Trying to, man. Trying to stay ahead of the curve when I can. My queue just got wiped out, so I'm definitely going to have to get rid of the pictures I had to go for that one.
A little disappointed here. Jacovius Marks out of Mississippi State just went off the board. Definitely somebody I'm keeping an eye on, but we got a pretty interesting roster build here from you. So why don't you talk a little bit about, what your approach here started off with DJU, and did you just kind of take it from there?
So the goal coming into this is it's a 6-point passing touchdown league. So obviously I wanted to attack quarterback early. I have not had a single selection in any draft that I've taken part of that was inside the top 3 picks. So I know that we're going to get to it later, but like my biggest disappointment this offseason is I have not been able to sniff Matt Corral or Malik Willis at all this. But as far as my draft goes, I was going to go with DJU. In his 2 games last season, he had a big comeback against Boston College, and then hung 400 on Notre Dame on the road, which was a stadium record, I believe. Nobody had ever thrown for that much in South Bend. So just seeing him do that with 2 slot receivers last year has me really excited for what he can do with guys like Ladson, Ross, and Nagata back on top of some other guys who we should see get mixed in here and there. And then from there, it was mainly attacking wide receivers. It's full point PPR. So I wanted guys that were going to get a lot of heavy targets. Calvin Austin, we mentioned. I will try not to slander Grant Gunnell here. I also have my doubts, but I will try not to slander Grant Gunnell here. But Calvin Austin's going to get a ton of receptions regardless as to who plays quarterback. And then I took on Corey Rucker from Arkansas State, who's got some promise. And a few picks after the John Reese Plumlee slot receiver pick, I took Braylon Sanders as the guy who we kind of expect to take over from there. I took Carson Strong in the 3rd round, which I haven't gotten a single share of Carson Strong because he's a lot more of a passer than a runner. And the top of his schedule is rather difficult. But a guy like Carson Strong in a 6-point PPR league, where the 6-point passing touchdown league is beneficial because the guy throws for 300 yards. That means he walks off the bus with 12 fantasy points. And then whatever he tops with touchdowns after that is just going to be another 6, another 6, another 6, another 6. So if he throws 4 touchdown passes and throws for 350, he's sitting around 40 fantasy points. So I took on Strong, and then hopefully the same thing will happen with Zappy. I kind of got the plan for running back was to take Calvin Turner and then turn around the next round and take Deuce Vaughn. But then Calvin Turner got taken like 2 selections before I took Deuce Vaughn. And so I was really bummed out about that, but I was like, okay, I'll take Deuce here.
Okay, awesome. And John, are you back with us? Nope, John's still struggling here. We'll get him back. Yeah, it's it's definitely an interesting build here. It looks like you're actually back on the clock here, so I'll let you work through your pick a little bit. As I kind of point out that Michael Mayer is the first, well, I should not say the first, the fourth tight end off the board here out of Notre Dame. The last couple picks, we have had a running back run for sure. Master Teague was the last selection in the 9th round. And then Max Borghi out of Washington State was the first selection of the 10th round. Jacovius Marks, Ramon Davis, the Temple transfer at Vanderbilt, who I'm very excited for, came off the board. Jaden Daniels, I took my guy here. I'm going for some dual threat upside there with Sims and Daniels in the 9th and 10th. Trey Henderson out of Ohio State. Travion Henderson out of Ohio State, the young freshman here. So Froton is betting on him getting some quick action here for the Buckeyes. And then Charlie Kohler comes off the board. So did you feel the need to grab potentially the end of the tight end run there?
Yeah, it looks like, we're kind of picking up to where the top 2 guys are going to go way far before anybody else will. Cole Turner has always been too steep for my taste. So I have not gotten a single share of Cole Turner, and I haven't gotten a share of Greg Dulcich either. And so when I start to see that second run of tight ends go off the board, I usually try to capitalize early. This one's a pretty deep tight end class, but there are some guys that you're kind of there's a lot of prove-it guys out there. And so the one dude that is absolutely not a prove-it guy is Charlie Kohler from Iowa State.
Yep.
That dude is just like, exactly what you were getting. You're not getting the top tight end off the board. You're getting a top 5 guy, and that's about it. And so I'll take him right now. I'll probably circle back later and take another guy. I have a few guys later on that I know that nobody else is really going to touch that I see some promise in. I'm usually pretty good at predicting tight ends, but not always. And so I know a few years ago it was Jay Sternberger that I was all over in the preseason, and then he went crazy. And then last year I was all about Payne Durham of Purdue, and he kind of just did like, okay. So I've got a few guys here there and later that I can take that might be a little more upside than Kohler, but might as well capitalize on him while he's here.
I think we can hear Bob again.
I'm hoping.
John,
can you hear me now, Matt?
There you go, John. Welcome back, my friend.
Sorry about everyone. I actually bought a new headset just for the draft, and somehow the battery went out. I thought I had it charged. Obviously, I did something wrong. So I had to get some headphones, so we're okay here. Sorry about that delay.
John,
I missed everyone.
Hold on a second. I just need to point out that John leaves this draft and comes back and takes Zonovan Knight from me, which is just disrespectful, John. You leave me as your host and you take my guy. I don't know what we're gonna do about this, man.
Well, if I did look quickly, you took my Jeff Sims, so we're even on that one. I was hoping for Jeff Sims as my third quarterback, so we're okay with that. Justin, how are you, my good friend? Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I'm really good, man. It's good to see you as well. Good to finally hear you again.
Well, I hope that you're healthy and everything's looking good for you. So I'm wishing you the best in regard to that. I see you got a CFF hat on now. Look at you styling with that, huh?
Oh,
Tell us
yeah.
about.
This came in earlier this week, and I could not have been more excited when I opened the box. When you go to customize a hat for yourself on different websites, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, the logo's way too small. And then I finally got it in the mail, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. This is beautiful. I love this so much.
I love it, dude. Great job. So I wasn't able to hear you. So do you have any bold predictions or major disappointments? Do you have anything for our listeners that you would like to talk about for the 2021 season coming up?
Well, I kind of hit on a disappointment of mine earlier when I hopped on while you were trying to get your mic situation figured out. I'd mentioned to Matt that I have yet to, in any draft that I have taken part in. So keep in mind, that's the Pros versus Joes draft. That's all the best ball drafts that we've done. Any mock draft that I've been a part of. I have yet to be in the top 3 picks.
Really?
So I have had no opportunity to take Willis or Corral at all.
Oh.
So I've pretty well mastered this. I think the highest I've picked is 5th. So I've mastered this 5 to 8 range in these 12 to 14 team drafts as in like, okay, this is the pick I have. I pretty well know who I can get right here. So like I haven't had a chance to get those guys. I have yet to have a chance to take Khalil Shakir either. He always gets snatched a pick or two before I can get back to my second round pick.
I was going to say, so he's technically a second rounder for you, right?
Yeah, he'd be like right there on the cusp, right there around the elbow, to where like if I had like the 8th pick, he would always go 9th, or like he'd go like the pick before in that second round or something like that. I've just haven't yet to have an opportunity to take him. So those are a few disappointments of mine. Some guys that I like that I could see really breaking out in a big way this year are guys like Max Borghi. With Renard Bell, with Renard Bell's injury, they're going to need some guys to step up, and like one of the best receivers on that team is in their backfield. And so whether or not they utilize him or not is yet to be seen. But Max Borghi is a guy that I could see potentially getting 30, 40 receptions. I have a lot of guys. I have a lot of receivers that I like. Y'all talked about Zakari Franklin earlier. I love Zakari Franklin. I'm a guy who will occasionally see something in spring games and put way too much stock in it. And so I have to kind of calm myself down on some guys in Zakari Franklin, and seeing Frank Harris actually play really well in the spring got me really excited about Zakari Franklin. Given his size and just his abilities to go up and get the ball. And the fact that, I actually saw that Frank Harris was a little bit injured, but even if he goes down, Josh Adkins also looked really good last season. So I'm not that disappointed by it. Another guy I think we're kind of sleeping on is Wandel Robinson going over to Kentucky. Which that might be taboo of me to talk about a guy undrafted, but here we are. Just having Wandale move from Nebraska to Kentucky, I was a little bit bummed out by that transfer at first, but I really think that Mike Stoops over there has done a good job of utilizing the playmakers that he has, and that is the best one that they have on that team now. So that dude could end up with 1,000 yards combined between his receiving and rushing numbers going throughout the season.
I agree. I like that. And he's still on the board. So we'll see if Justin is giving away the goods. Justin, I'm so glad to have you on. I'm so sorry I missed the interview. Technical difficulties from my end, but we did resolve it. Oh, I'm on the clock here for a second. Let me see who Mike sniped me on now. Mike's always sniped Khalil Pimpleton. Okay, so he wasn't in my queue. For once, I did not get sniped by Mike. Let me go ahead, Matt. Why don't we get Justin out of here? I'll take my pick. You guys chat, and then we'll move on. How's that?
Sounds good, man. Justin, any final words for where folks can access your work? Make sure to check out all of the good stuff you got going on.
Just through, if you want to hop on Twitter, I try to do a lot to keep up with breaking news. So you'll see my fancy graphics that I have on there at Insider CFF on Twitter. You can also access all the content that we have on cffinsiders.com. We have rankings, player news, things like that. That's just all there available for whoever wants it.
I do like all the fancy new stuff. Justin does some awesome graphics on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen, with the breaking news. We have someone who posted Haitian Kid 79. Good pick with Max Johnson, Mike. I agree with Haitian Kid there, my man.
All right, Justin, thanks so much, my man. Thanks for jumping on with us today.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Good luck the rest of the draft.
You too.
Not too good of luck, though. All right.
Go get that belt. All right. So we have Jared getting ready to go on next, everyone. So why don't we recap a little bit here? We had 2 tight ends who went in the 10th round. So I'll start from the tight end draft there. Michael Meyer, let's see. Where did I have to see? I have to go to a different screen.
He went 10.06.
And who did he? Oh, the Natty Chasers took Michael Meyer. Then we had, Justin took Charlie Kohler. So how many tight ends do we have? Wow, we only have 1, 2, 3.
Five
Only
off the board.
5 tight ends have come off the board, and we're in the middle of round number 11. So there's still, that means 7 teams still need tight ends. So there's clearly some value in people. Tight end is a very deep position this year. So people are comfortable, obviously, in this draft waiting on the tight end. Now, I did notice someone took Sean Dykes. Now, here on
That's
Fantrax, he's a wide receiver. So does he let's see, what do they say with Sean Dykes? Is he do they have him JD? Is he a tight end and wide receiver? Oh, okay. So Fantrax has him listed at both positions, a tight end and a wide receiver, which gives you some roster flexibility. He's highlighted in green, but he is a tight end. So we need 5 teams. 6 teams still need a tight end. So after we had the double tight ends off, we had Aeneas Smith, Texas A&M, went to CFB winning edge, Nick. I took my favorite sleeper running back, Zonovan Knight, in the 9th round. I know I had drafted 3, but I was comfortable with the 4th tight end. Look at, ladies and gentlemen, there's going to be bye weeks, there's going to be injuries, and we have 2 flex positions. So I grabbed Zonovan Knight there. Cam Porter went to Mike Bainbridge of Northwestern. Excuse me. Tanner Mordecai, the quarterback, went to SMU. Wandel Robinson, Josh double tapped with Wandel Robinson and Lou Nichols, wide receiver and a running back. JD took Sean Dykes, who qualifies as a tight end and a receiver. Khalil Pimpleton went to Mike Bainbridge from Central Michigan. I'm looking at a different screen for the draft results. Sorry, everyone. I took wide receiver Elijah Cannon out of Auburn. He's my 4th wide receiver. Coastal Carolina running back, Reese White. Nice pick here. Huge upside in that Coastal Carolina offense. And Eric Azukuyama of Texas Tech, who was actually in my queue. Sorry that I didn't get him. So I wanted Eric Azukuyama very much. And who's up now then? Who do we have? Oh, the Natty Chasers. Matt, why don't you bring in Jared for his live pick?
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll get Jared in here. Jared, looking sharp in that shirt, first and foremost, man. Nice
Thank
selection
you.
on the side.
Thank you. I am currently making my way over to the draft board. I don't know if Xavier's waiting on me to make the pick or if he's on his way to do it as well. But we're going to go ahead and take Caleb Ellaby here, quarterback out of Western Michigan. We went quarterback very early on in this draft, so we waited several rounds before we even considered taking another one. And Caleb Ellaby is going to be in an offense this year that I think is going to be very much high-flying, going to have a lot of different weapons to work with, and I think having him as a 3rd quarterback in this team is going to be fantastic for us.
Yeah, that's a great selection there. Certainly somebody who I think was I thought would have gone a lot earlier, to be honest. So I think for the fact that you kind of had a nice gap in waiting on quarterback there, that you got a really good quarterback 3 with that selection. Mm-hmm. And I'm on the board, so I'm going to let Lob take it over here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you got to follow Jared and his teammate Xavier Hood. Xavier's coming on next. They are sharing a team here. But ladies and gentlemen, they are rising experts in the college fantasy football industry. Someone's got a dog, but that's all right. I got dogs too, so they bark when I'm live. I believe that's Matt's dog. We don't have a dog in the hotel. But Jared, if you check out Jared Xavier's channel on YouTube, Chasing the Natty, they have great content. They do live drafts. They also, Jared has a great option. Go to his Twitter feed. He has this amazing ADP that he has put together. I think I've known about this since May when you started posting it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want college fantasy football ADP that isn't just Fantrax, this has other, excuse me, everyone. It has other drafts. It has expert rankings. Jared has done a great job with that. So please follow Jared and Xavier. Jared's Twitter handle is there at CFF_Jared. So, Jared, you talked a little bit about your roster building. Tell us, do you have a bold prediction or do you have a biggest disappointment that you'd like to share with our listeners now?
So Xavier's bringing up my notes here in a second because I'm a dummy and I left him in the room. But I'll go ahead and talk about my bold prediction, and that's looking at the Oklahoma offense. I don't think you see an Oklahoma wide receiver finish in the top 24 wide receivers this year.
Woo!
I can see it. Absolutely.
Again, just looking at the options they got Theo Weiss, they got Marvin Mims. Obviously, everyone's favorite is Marvin Mims. Mike Woods just came in from Arkansas. Mario Williams is going to be another freshman that everybody's going to be watching out for this year. And I just don't think they're going to be spread add in receiving backs such as Eric Gray. And you got plenty of options to go around.
Stogner's going to take up targets as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And then, of course, Jeremiah Hall is going to be there to steal your fantasy points every single week. So, like, I'm just saying, I would not be surprised if none of those guys really pay off for you in the end. In terms of biggest disappointments, I know a lot of people. I was looking at the Discord chat kind of early on in the draft. Then it crashed my computer a little bit, so I'm like, all right, I had to close that down. But a lot of people were very angry about the fact that Kevin Marks was falling to the 4th round, and I actively avoided him. We actively avoided him, and I think he'll be this season's greatest disappointment. You're talking about a guy that is going at overall throughout the offseason, according to my ADP sheet, going overall 14th, and then in the last month he's dropped down to about the 19th, 20th pick, but even so, that's way too early for me. You're talking about a guy who is going through a coaching change, has lost 6 offensive linemen off that roster. You're talking about a team that lost Jared Patterson this past year and everything. I just don't think he lives up to the billing of a typical Buffalo running back. I don't think that system's going to necessarily be the same. Like I said, last year, a lot of people are pointing out to the fact that he had 6.6 yards per carry. That's very impressive. Don't get me wrong. But again, as I mentioned before, you lose 6 starters off that offense, or 6 people off that offensive line, that depth chart. That's going to be a massive rebuild there, and they're not going to be able to produce that immediately.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, I have loved Jared Patterson and that Buffalo running game.
I love him too.
Yeah, and they have a coaching change. They lost, I believe, 6 linemen have left the building, left the campus for Buffalo. I do think the volume will be there. So it's really dependent on, do you believe he'll be efficient enough with the volume? And that's kind of one of the questions that all college fantasy football and NFL fantasy football. We can have volume, but there's some players who have volume and they're very inefficient with that volume. So it's a question of, you believe, and I don't disagree, that Kevin Marks is going to be inefficient with that volume. Do you have any hot, spicy takes you'd like to share with us, my man?
None really. Like I'm thinking here off the top of my head. Again, like my bold prediction was the fact that I don't think an Oklahoma wide receiver comes in the top 24. In terms of just overall for college football and everything, again, I know 40th preseason national championship in a row, but Georgia Bulldogs are absolutely going to be in the hunt for the Natty again this year. You know how it's going to be. I think they're going to be legitimate this year. So there's that. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Talking about my roster, I guess we're on the clock. I just got my ears blown out.
Oh, live pick. That's what we love to have.
I'm gonna let Xavier have this one. Xavier, I left him, or he's got a list of people that we were targeting. I'm gonna let him make this decision.
Oh, okay. Xavier gets to make the pick, and he'll come on next to talk about his pick.
Yeah, he's mad at me because I pushed for LOB to be chosen, and he was pushing for Burton, and I'm like, no, Burton will be there in a round, and then Burton was taken immediately afterwards. So Xavier was mad at me when he came out here talking to me. But anyway, the other guests have talked about it. The 6-point passing touchdowns really kind of changed the draft for us coming in, and we wanted to target quarterback early. Like our immediate goal was to get DJ Uiagalelei in the first round. He got taken right before us. So then we focused on the PPR aspect. Went David Bell, who's going to get so much volume this year as a receiver. So we figured we start off with that. Grab our quarterbacks. Next, we grabbed Sam Howell, and then honestly, we were thinking about passing CJ Stroud, but again, just the idea of having 2 top-tier quarterbacks in a 6-point passing touchdown league was going to be too much for us to pass up on. So we decided to skip out on running back for a little bit later, and I think we got plenty of value here later in this draft. I think we got a good roster here.
I like it a lot. I know you guys are great at this. I've seen your shows. You and Xavier probably each done 10 college fantasy football drafts like myself by now.
And plus the amount.
and one thing, ladies and gentlemen, Jared is really good because he does conference-only best balls. He does Power 5 and Group of 5. There are so many different ways to play college fantasy football. You don't have to go all 130 teams. Jared and Xavier will help you out if you want to do an ACC only. They have recaps of it. They probably, you can look at the rankings. They have everything that you need to do. Ladies and gentlemen, there are so many different ways to play college fantasy football. We love the big leagues because this is something we all love and we've been doing it for years. But Jared and Xavier have also have opportunities for people who maybe you just love the Big 12. Go join with 6 friends, a Big 12 conference. Do it, everyone. There's so many different ways to play. We can't thank you enough, Jared, for supporting us, coming out to Canton, Ohio. We love it. Thank you for coming on. Have a great day and good luck, but please don't beat me in the regular season.
Good luck, John.
Thank you.
All right, man. Enjoy.
Matt, didn't you have a pick lately?
I did. I had 2 picks, actually. In the 11th, I took Zac Evans at a TCU. I figure, heck, we're in the 11th round. I might as well dive in on some talent. And then in the 11th, or in the 12th round, I should say, I went Xavier Hutchinson out of Iowa State. I don't think we have a ton of upside with Hutchinson, but he just seems like a really safe guy to just roll out weekly, and you kind of know what you're going to get with him. And so, and if for some reason Brock Purdy can get his life together and be somewhat consistent, then all of a sudden you have something really interesting.
No, Matt, I love Xavier Hutchinson as a 5th or 6th wide receiver. He falls so far down draft boards. When you are looking at bye weeks, when you're looking at flex position options, I like Xavier. He was actually in my queue. I was hoping to get him. CFB winning edge is on the clock right now. I think Nick doesn't know he's on the clock. Does Nick know he's on the clock? So Nick has been fooling around with our man Eric in the room, and he didn't notice. So now Nick is on the clock. The only reason I know Nick is on the clock is because I'm coming up, and I was going to go back to you because I'm looking here. I am on the clock. So Nick just took his tight end, Isaiah Likely. I think. Oh no, that's Nick's second tight end. So Nick is double dipped at the position, which is nice to have 2. I'm on the clock now. I was hoping Xavier Hutchinson would last to me here, but he has not fallen to me. So I'm going to look at Matt. Why don't you talk a little bit? Why don't we review like the last 10 picks while I find a wide receiver that I like?
Yeah, absolutely, John. So going through here, we'll go for my Zac Evans pick, which was a late 11th round selection. We had Malik Cunningham go off the board for John Mckechnie. That's his 3rd quarterback off the board here. So Cunningham, an interesting guy. He actually flirted with the NFL draft this year. I think he made the right choice to go back to Louisville for his final season. And then we had 2 tight ends go off the board. Brant Kuthi out of Utah, a guy who I really love to watch. It'll be interesting to see his production. They kind of use him as like a hybrid, like H-back type guy. So he's certainly going to be a player to watch in that Utah offense with Charlie Brewer this year. And then Trey McBride, a guy I know a lot of draft picks are really excited about, was the final selection in the 11th round. And then Zamir White. When I took Zac Evans, I was absolutely considering Zamir White as well. In the Georgia offense, you're never going to quite get the volume, but Zamir White, double-digit touchdowns last season, despite the fact that he was splitting time, and despite the fact that the Georgia offense was not as efficient as it could have been. So I think in the 12th round, Zamir White's a great choice. Kevin Brown took Jaden DeLora with this pick in the 12th round. That's an interesting one. Certainly, as long as he's at the helm of the Washington State team, he can really kind of be a feature guy in a really fun offense. He's got to clean up his act a little bit. I know he was dismissed from the team and brought back. And then Kobe Lewis went off the board here. Cade Otton, Tyler Snead, C.J. Johnson, Isaiah Likely, and then John, you took Bo Melton, who I know you mentioned on our wide receiver sleepers episode.
Yeah, I like Bo Melton here. I'm looking for upside. Rutgers isn't probably going to be very good. I think they're getting a little bit better. But the reason why I like a player like Bo Melton, he's big. He's coming back for a super season. The coaching staff loves him. He is the playmaker on Rutgers. And, I've said this before, garbage points count as much as any other point. A 50-yard reception in the fourth quarter is worth as much as a 50-yard reception in the first quarter. So I expect the Scarlet Knights to be throwing late in the game, and that's good news for Bo Melton. So I'm willing to take the upside risk here. He's my fifth wide receiver. I'm kind of looking for home runs here, and we're going to bring in our next guest, Xavier Hood, the other member of the Chasing Natty team today. Hey, Xavier, thanks for coming in. Everyone, Xavier is chasing the Natty. I mentioned the Chasing the Natty on their YouTube site. Go see that. He's CF_Xavier. Him and Jared put together great stuff. Follow him on YouTube. Follow him up on Twitter. Xavier, thanks for joining us. Why don't you tell us about yourself and how your draft's going? How do you like being a teammate drafted in a college fantasy football league?
Oh man, it's definitely interesting. It's definitely going from like one, and now you have two butting heads going back and forth. But it feels like an actual NFL draft war room, like that type of comparison. Because me and Jared are going back and forth. Like I know the last pick that he made live with Ellaby, and I was like, all right, if we think we can get Burton later, and then Burton went immediately, and I was like, well, it's fine, we got the guy we wanted, but a guy we also did want is gone now. So I was like, well, I'll let him hear it, later on in the season if Burton ends up going off. But I think so far we're happy with where we're at.
Excellent. Like your team. So you and Jared. Now, let me ask you, on the drive, you guys drove up from Georgia. Did you talk only about college fantasy football, or did you guys actually have a conversation about any other subject?
You know what? On the drive here, I started off with, I was like, all right, what's going to be our strategy? We were thinking about the league rules and things like that. 6 PPR touchdown was definitely a big eye opener for us. We were just like, all right, quarterbacks are probably going to go off early. The big names like Rattler, DJ. We really were eyeing DJ at that 7th spot, but he went, I think, 5. So. And we did for a while, and then once we got up in the mountains, we were just like, all right, we'll play some music and listen to some podcasts. And then I think we posted on Twitter where I was singing "Goat Yay," somebody that I used to know, and Jared caught me off guard. So it was a little mixture of both. We were just having a good time.
Oh, that's awesome. So you had a good drive. Now, I noticed, let me ask you, with the 6-point touchdown throwing, I do think it changes the rankings and how you look at the quarterback. Is that why you were comfortable taking Sam Howell in the 2nd round? That's a little earlier than I usually see him go, but was it the 6-point passing touchdown that made the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. We both love Sam Howell for what he does. He might not be the most mobile quarterback, but we do like him in the pocket and how he has Josh Downs and Captain Brown this season. So even though a lot of people are worried about the receivers that have left and even more importantly the running backs, but I think he has a good personnel around him with Caffrey, Ty Chandler, Josh Downs, of course. So I think Sam Howell's poised to have a good season, especially with that offensive line returning majority of those starters. So definitely went into that.
So I have a question because I like Caleb Ellaby also. I think that's a huge upside play. Your teammate Jared had mentioned that you weren't really necessarily targeting Caleb Ellaby there. Tell me, I know you wanted Jermaine Burton, you had said. So what was it more that you like Burton's upside more, or is it you don't like Ellaby? Why was there this disagreement? Because I do think Caleb Ellaby has great upside there.
Oh, no, absolutely. We both love Caleb Ellaby. I felt like that maybe he could have fell maybe 1 more round or 2 more rounds for us. I would
have sniped him because he was in my queue.
Well, he was in the queue. Okay. So either way, I felt I like the Jermaine Burton's more upside. I think this is Georgia's first true receiver that I think he has the legit possibility to put up 1,000 yards this season. I think he's that type of talent.
Yeah, with Daniels in the offense as well. Hopefully they re-engineer a little bit, get a little bit away from the Georgia identity. Hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. We don't have the dynamic backs of old like a Michelle or Nick Chubb. We do have some up-and-coming players, but they haven't fully, popped out just yet. But Jermaine Burton definitely made a statement last season to where I feel like it's time to move towards that, new offensive, like maybe we should spread the ball out a little bit more. And I think Todd Monken and JT Daniels are a good fit together to do that. So
And you would think, right, there's going to be this pressure on the Bulldogs offense this year, right? Like if this is the year they're going to take a step forward, right? The East should be theirs, right?
Absolutely.
You got to think there's an emphasis on some offensive innovation. So you got to project out a little bit. I think it's a smart call.
Yeah, absolutely. You see all the other big name programs like LSU did it in 2019. And they tried to implement it last year, but things, COVID and some other things happened. And then you have Alabama where Nick Saban just brings in NFL coaches and they just institute that spread offense, and it works wonders for them. And I was like, for us, in the East, it's a lot easier to where we can just beat up on easier opponents. But then Florida, they instituted it last year where you had Kyle Pitts, Jacob Copeland, Kadarius Toney, even Trevon Grimes, where you're spreading the ball out a lot more, where their run game was just absolutely irrelevant and they're still putting up big numbers. So I think it's time for Georgia to definitely move on in that direction as well, too. So it's definitely an emphasis.
So, Xavier, I have a quick question. Do you philosophically on your team building here, are you going to target a fourth quarterback because it's a 2-quarterback league? And would you be willing to target JD Daniels as a fourth quarterback with upside here?
That's funny that you mentioned that. I was going to say for my surprising pick of the or my big hot take of the year, I think JT Daniels is going to be a lot more fantasy relevant than a lot of people are giving him credit.
Oh,
I think he for a lot of drafts he's going undrafted sometimes, and I think that's being overlooked. And a lot of people have the right opinion of thinking that it's just going to be Samuel Georgia, they're just going to run the ball, and they're right to have that opinion from the past where we had past OCs, but now that we have Todd Monken and we saw that small sample size for the 3 games that he played, where he put up over 300 yards, I think for majority of those games, threw multiple touchdowns and only had maybe 1 or 2 interceptions. It was just I think JT Daniels is going to be one of those pocket quarterbacks that especially for this league, 6 point touchdowns. JT Daniels, I would assume that he would be a commodity here. Now I don't know if personally we would draft him. It just depends on how the chips may fall, because there are some quarterbacks that we are eyeing as well too that are still left that I think we do want to get at least one more.
Now, I completely agree with you. In a 6-point passing touchdown league, I would say JD Daniels does have more value than I would normally. When you have a 3-point passing touchdown or 4-point passing touchdown, I don't really look for kind of one-dimensional throwers like JD Daniels. However, especially early in the season, when you have JD Daniels in Georgia, I would assume, I don't have the schedule right in front of me, they probably have an easier schedule early on. So
the first game is Clemson, so that's
other than that, though.
Other than that, it's a smooth ride.
But ironically, against Clemson, they could get in a shootout here
absolutely.
too.
Yeah.
So that could be something where JT Daniels could pop off easily with 3 or 4 touchdowns, because we know Clemson's going to score, and I know Georgia's got a really good defense, but I don't expect that to be a 17-14 game by any stretch. So you could have JT Daniels really surprising people early before he gets into the heart of the SEC schedule. So I do think he has more value here than in normal college fantasy football leagues. So we just had a team. I want to look at this. Someone just went 3 straight quarterbacks. Kevin Brown. So I know if you've listened to Kevin Brown, our man here, he's a great college fantasy football mind, and he has mentioned this on a couple shows and tweets and things I've read of his. He's very comfortable drafting 3 quarterbacks late, very late. I think he's the last one. He didn't get a quarterback until round 12, ladies and gentlemen.
I can't wait to chat with him about that.
Yeah, and what Kevin did here, I like this a lot, and he can explain it more. I think he's coming on later.
He's our next one, yeah? Or 2.
Excellent.
Two down the road.
2 down the road. But he went for systems. And I'll let Kevin Brown explain how he took his 3 quarterbacks here, but it's very interesting. I just noticed that at the last second. So, Xavier, do you have a big disappointment or a spicy take? Anything you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I do have I think for all the love, and I absolutely love Kyron Williams, but I think, people are expecting him to have a similar or better season than last season. And I think with Notre Dame, they have Chris Tyree coming back full time, being healthy. That his production might go down, and from what I'm hearing out of camp, it sounds like Chris Tyree and Kyron Williams. It's funny that you mentioned that. Chris Tyree came in as a higher star recruit than Kyron Williams, just that he wasn't able to play in the beginning. So now that you have these things coming out of camp and how Notre Dame is going to adjust this year, And I think with Michael Meyer and whoever they decide to go with that quarterback at Jackson Cone, I think Kyron Williams, even though, and then also on top of that, the schedule that they have is nothing to scoff at. They have some tough opponents this year as well too. So I think Kyron Williams, for as much love that he got last season for what he did, I don't think he's gonna be able to replicate or produce. Now he can prove me wrong, but I'm not just ready to jump aboard that. I think Chris Curry is a guy it's gonna be a split backfield over there.
All right, so my pick's right up. Matt, why don't you say goodbye to Xavier first? Thank you, Xavier. I'm going to try to make my pick here now. I got to see what I got.
All right, man. And I'll just, before I give you the chance to plug your spot a little bit, I just got to say, man, I love the team dynamic here. Outside of John, will whisper it, and myself, I'll be rooting for you guys. I love it's tough being a dual manager, so I love the teamwork going on here. I'm excited to see how the team plays out. But let's make sure everybody knows about the podcast, all the good stuff that you guys have, where they can consume the content.
Yeah, we're the Chasing Natty podcast. We're on all streaming platforms, from Spotify and Apple Music being our biggest ones. We also upload our shows on YouTube as well. And we have some future things on the work. Jared does mock draft Mondays and things like that. So we're going to get those back up and running just before the season starts. And we're going to have some more in-season content coming soon for everybody. So really excited to get this going. And thank y'all for having us.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming. I'm so glad to see you down there in Ohio. And, I'll look forward to catching up next year with you.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Have a good one.
Right,
good luck rest of the draft. All right, John, just you and me again. And I see you're on the clock here.
Yeah, I'm trying to find – I had a player, and now he's gone from my queue, so I'm trying to figure out what happened here.
He got sniped? It must have.
I don't know.
Who are you going for?
I'm going for wide receiver Keelan Stokes, but I don't – oh, there he is. I got him.
I was going to say, I don't think he was off the board.
Nope. All right, I got him. All right.
And so a pair of smaller school guys, because you took a good selection in Frank Gore Jr., highly productive true freshman for Southern Miss last year. Didn't quite have the touchdown, so hopefully those come through.
Yeah, I think Southern Miss will be a little better of a football team this year. I try to, when I mentioned players as sleepers as I like, and I identified Frank Gore Jr. as one of those players that I like. I love the value. I mean, I'm getting Frank Gore Jr. in the 13th round. He's my 5th running back. So when you're looking at a player, in my opinion, with the high number of touches that he's in store for, I expect him to be a little bit more active. He was a true freshman last year. This year, I think he'll be more active in the passing game. So I like Frank Gore there. And Keelan Stokes. I know, you're looking at Tulsa, but you're looking at the best wide receiver at Tulsa. At this point in the draft, I will target players who are the best player on their team. So that's why I was willing to get Keelan Stokes. I like him there. I knew he was going to fall. I've been in enough drafts now where I've seen Stokes fall always to these mid, we're looking at rounds 13 to 15. So I like Stokes there. He's my 6th wide receiver. So he's the best wide receiver in a defensively challenged conference, and he's the number 1 wide receiver. I'll take that here, and hopefully he'll get the number of targets I need to be productive. All right, so who's coming in next?
I think we have Eric on next.
Eric, my man Eric is coming on next. All right, everyone, this is going to be
14-15 turn.
We should be calling this Hurricane Eric tidbit. So we're going to have Eric coming on fresh into the room, everyone. All right, so we'll have him on in a second. Where are we? What round? We are in round 14, ladies and gentlemen.
14-15 turn, yeah.
So we still got, after this, 5 more rounds to go. We're bringing on our next expert, my teammate on the ITL College Fantasy Football Podcast, Eric Froton. So we're on the turn. So Jalen Mitchell. I told you, nice pick. Was that Mike? I know Mike is a big Jalen Mitchell guy.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was Mike. Yep, that was Mike.
That was Mike. Great pick. Mike's been talking.
Can I just tell you, John?
Yeah, go ahead.
We're into the 15th round here, and there is still guys that I am sweating that I want to get. I am still very excited about the options on the board here. I'm hoping I get my guys. So I needed to share that. Even going into the 15th round, man, I will be upset if I get sniped on these 2 guys that I want on my next go around.
One of the best things about college fantasy football, when you're in the 15th round of the NFL draft, you're like scrapping for starters, right? It's so disappointing in round 15. But in college fantasy football, even around, there'll be players I want in round 18 who are starters or they're in a high scoring offense. They might be a super senior who's been very productive for 2 years, but hasn't necessarily become a star. So I do believe the college fantasy football draft, even more than the NFL, is won in the last 8 rounds of the draft because there is talent with injuries. There's probably a 1,400-yard rusher out there available right now. It's just, can you get that running back or do you get him on the waiver wire? So we just entered round 15. I believe Eric's in the back room. Matt, there he is.
Yeah, we'll get Eric on here.
Hello, my man Eric, my teammate. How are you today? Well, while Eric gets
we might not have audio yet for Eric.
We don't have audio yet, but Eric is if you don't know, he's on NBC Sports Edge. Eric does a weekly column throughout the season. He does off-season college fantasy football betting stuff. Eric is incredible at player props. Please follow CFF Froton on Twitter. See his written work on NBC Sports Edge. Eric is one of the best. I know I followed him last year, and his player props hit at I want to say they're like at 80%. He was on a roll last year on player props, but as soon as Eric gets on here, we're just working out a little bit of technical difficulties. So we'll get him on in a second.
I just say that, Eric, I can see backstage, right? So I could see everybody's cameras even when they're not talking. And he has been the most animated drafter, I think, today. I can
all
see
day
him
long
jumping around. And so I can already tell you he's a fun guy to be drafted with. And I can't even, I'm not even there talking to him.
Oh, there's no question. I think it's my pick.
Yeah, you're on the clock here. Yep.
So let me recap the turn while Eric gets ready there. Mike had taken Jalen Mitchell, then Nathaniel Dell, sophomore wide receiver out of Houston, who's getting a lot of pub lately. Nathaniel Dell is moving up draft board, so JD got a really nice wide receiver there. Jalen Hall, Western Michigan. I'm sure Jalen Hall, you like that offense of the Broncos. They could be very explosive. Then Josh is going for Hyatt. Josh is going for the home run here. He took Will Rogers out of Mississippi State quarterback Mike Leach's system. If he hits, he could be huge. We have Mateo Durant out of Duke and Taj Harris. So I think I'm up now, right? Oh, I am up.
Yeah, you're
all right, so let's see if we get Eric going. I got to pick a player here. All right, I'm going to take a conservative, boring player, but someone I like. I took Sean Clifford, quarterback, Penn State.
John.
I like Sean
Clifford.
I know, but the numbers are there. I mean, it's not pretty. He doesn't look great, but at the end of the year, Sean Clifford's numbers, I've been reading about him. He had some bad games last year. I think he was benched at one point last year. So Sean Clifford is a high risk, high return, but I like that Penn State offense. Let's see what happens. People are laughing at me. I think they're either laughing with me or at me. I'm not sure right now. But either way is good right now. I think that was not a popular pick by the room, but I am a Sean Clifford guy. So let's see if we got Eric on now as the room continues. Josh can barely contain himself in the corner here. All right. And Mike Bainbridge is now completely red. So, but that's all right. I took my guy, Sean Clifford. All right.
So, it looks like Eric is having tech difficulties. I don't know if we want to bring on Kevin and then go back to Eric.
Why don't we bring on Kevin now? That'd be great.
We're pushing the end of the draft here. Oh, no need to get rid of the pup. The pup can join the stream as well, Kevin.
Oh, there he is.
Welcome in, my man. It actually looks like you have yourself muted.
What's going on, boys?
Good.
Hey, Kevin.
Before we jump into any analysis, I just got to, give a big, I'm angry at you for that Eric Gray selection. I was going to use a different choice of words, but this is a, family-oriented stream.
Yeah, we got to keep it PG. I get it, man. I get it.
No, but that was a great pick in the third round, all seriousness.
Yeah. So, John, before we get started, man, thank you very much for putting all this stuff on. I know whenever I first got started in the industry, you were a big help to me. This has been fantastic to be a part of. I'm super psyched about what's the CFF industry and the trajectory that we're heading in. So again, thank you for all the help for getting me started up and everything. And thank you again for putting all this stuff on. I really appreciate it. And Matt, thanks for hosting it as well. Appreciate you guys.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. I think we've known each other for like 3 years now
Yeah.
on Twitter.
Yeah.
I remember when you first reached out to me, you were a great young man. You were asking me some questions. I've seen you grow in this industry. I know you're going to bring the heat. I know you're going to draft extraordinarily well. I think everyone sees Kevin's Twitter handle there. He's at K. What is that? K
Hookem.
Hookem. Hey, Hookem, obviously, if you know college football, he is in Texas and a Texas fan. Him and JD do the great podcast, Campus to Canton. Check them out. Follow Kevin. And Kevin, I've heard you talk about this build. I didn't mean to start with the 3 running back build. I know you're very comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. And then you were even more patient. I can't be as patient as you waiting for the quarterback. I can't be that patient. I got to try to get a quarterback a little bit earlier than you, but to tell us about your quarterback patience strategy this year.
All right. So what it boils down to is I've probably done 10 or 12 different mocks and probably 4 or 5 live drafts getting ready for the season. Every time that I start, a couple running backs, couple wide receivers, and I'm in that 5-6 round range picking quarterbacks, like DTR or Dylan Gabriel, somebody like that. I'm usually never really psyched up about what I have toward the end. So unless I'm going to take one of those top, 5 quarterbacks that usually go in the first and top of the second round, I don't do that a lot. And Matt, this is a pick for you. I'm gonna go ahead and lock up the Oklahoma backfield just in case something happens there.
Who are you taking?
Went ahead and took Kennedy Brooks and made sure that I'm not a big handcuff guy, but the Oklahoma running back over the years has been a gold mine for CFF purposes. If something happens with Eric Gray, then I know I've got it locked up there. But back to the quarterback talk is you were spot on. It's nothing but system. It's the Rolo system. It's the Texas Tech system. Now I know Jaden Delore has got some things going on with his personal life, but if Rolo starts Jarrett Garantano, I'm done. I'm done with him. I'll never draft another player on his team ever again because I will lose all trust in that guy. I'll be totally out.
I got to tell you, as a guy who has had to watch too much Jarrett Garantano over the last few years, I completely agree. If somebody else wins a starting job, then I'll eat crow and I'll cut the guy and I'll move on. But I've talked with John about this a lot, and I've talked to several guys, especially the Chasing the Natty guys, and of course JD on our podcast. If I'm not going to be able to get one of those top tier guys, I'm done with the quarterbacks. I'm totally going to punt on the position. And just there's so many players in CFF. If you miss a couple at the draft, so what? Cut them, move on. Play the matchup, stream guys, that kind of stuff. And before I get poked too hard on here, I got to talk about my John Reese Plumlee pick.
Oh yeah, that's
right.
That was a fun pick. I gotta hear about John Reese Plumlee.
Yeah. So I had to. So I've been in several live drafts over the past couple of weeks. The reason I'm not up there right now is I'm just coming off the COVID recovery. So I had several drafts lined up that just happened to fall in that line, and that was right when the Plumlee hype was starting to get building up. Right. The guy's killing it in camp. He's playing in the slot, looking like he's going to be one of the slot guys. And if he is, with how strong he runs and how athletic he is, he's going to dominate in that position. Now, if he's not, then I look like a real idiot. I get that. I'm totally aware of that. But there's no ADP data on him at all because he's not been drafted anywhere all year long.
Right.
So I think that's the first time I've seen him.
Yeah,
all year.
It's the first time I've seen him drafted. Yeah, so I made it a point. I told myself this morning when I got up. Because of the drafts that I have done, the live drafts, they've all been picked up on the waiver wire before I could get to him. So I made it a point that there was a 0.0% chance I was leaving this draft without him, and I have no idea what you guys are thinking. And at that point, I've got my core team. My first 5 rounds are picked. I've got my stud running backs. I got me a couple wide receivers. So I'm gonna roll the dice and I'm gonna shoot for the stars. Hope to land on the moon type of situation. But I've talked with Jared over at the Natty Chasers a lot on this. I'm a very aggressive drafter. I'm okay with making a mistake and totally missing on a guy. But if John Reese Plumlee does hit and he's on somebody else's team because I wanted to play the ADP game, I am going to be pissed.
Right.
And I will hate myself all year for it. So I'm making sure that I get my guys, even if I got to spend way too high on them to get them.
Well, Kevin, you know what? I completely agree with roster construction with what you're saying. If he has been hot, we've probably seen the clips, at least I have. He's made some plays in training camp, a lot of discussion about him. We know he's a super athlete.
Yep.
I mean, Rich Rodriguez brought him in to play quarterback, that dynamic quarterback in that offense. The problem is he had no shot in the offense by Lane Kiffin. His skill set, his athletic dynamism, it's not going to work. Matt Corral's a better quarterback for that system. So what do you do if you're the young man? You basically have 2 choices. You transfer out, which obviously he didn't want to do, or 2, you switch positions to get on the field. Now, with his athletic ability, the upside is there, especially in the slot position.
Yep.
So I like what you did. Look, we're late in the draft season. Kickoff is 2 weeks away. You're saying I'm targeting a guy who I like. I'm comfortable. I love it. You know what? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But you went out, you got your guy. Now, for those listeners or followers right now, you might get him in round 15.
Yeah,
and
for
Kevin,
sure. For sure.
And Kevin just said something very important. Hey, there's no ADP on him. If you're in a dynasty league or if you have a league with waiver wires, go get him now. I would say he's available in 90% of waiver wires right now. So, Kevin, do you have any must-have players? We kind of just said John Reese Plummer. Do you have a biggest disappointment or bold prediction? I'm on the clock now.
Well, you go ahead and pick, John. I'll talk about this. So on the must-have player side of things, it's definitely Jo'quavious Marks from Mississippi State.
That was a great pick.
He's a guy that I have drafted in almost every single mock draft and every single live draft that I've actually done just for the receiving upside. Mike Leach has that second-year uptick, especially with running backs catching the ball. Especially at Texas Tech, he had several guys that were knocking on the door of 100 receptions. And we all know what he did at Washington State with Max Borghi and Williams and those kind of guys that they just dominated in the passing game. Biggest disappointment for me as a Texas fan will always be Texas. They will never live up to the hype that they get in the season. I absolutely hate seeing them put in the top 25 every single year. I hate looking at it. As a Texas fan, I'm probably the most pessimistic guy on the planet. There's just no way that they live up to the expectation that they have unless they're winning the Big 12, unless they're going to the playoff. And I just don't think that we're there right now. And from a bold prediction standpoint, Froton sniped me right before I got you with Eric Gray, Matt. Is Austin Jones. I think we're really going to be mad at ourselves as an industry for not looking at what Austin Jones. I think he's really getting dinged for only playing a handful of games last year. The guy is a volume king. He gets almost every touch that they have. Plus, he has a pretty locked in 3 or 4 receptions every single week. Even if he averages 5 receptions a game, I won't be surprised. And at that point, you're looking at a guy that's getting anywhere from 25 to 30 touches every single week. And I mean, what's king for fantasy football? It's volume, right? Mm-hmm. It's volume for fantasy football, and I think that he's gonna have every bit of volume for his team. So yeah, that was a guy that I really, really like to get, and I think that we're going to be mad that we didn't have him in the first round. Absolute top of the second round at the absolute lowest.
Because I can go to the bathroom.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really interesting one. I think for me, I've been maybe a little bit too excited about E.J. Smith for too long. It seems like Austin Jones is still going to kind of be that lead guy. And so I think you're absolutely right on that pick. I loved what you said about the Marks pick, too. I mean, I had him when you made that pick, I said, man, that is a good round of a PPR league, to get Marks right there. That's really good value. So I love both of those guys.
But yeah, fellas, again, before we get Eric on here, if he's ready, again, I really appreciate you guys. You guys have done an awesome job hosting this. And John, thank you for putting all this stuff together. I have got the worst case of FOMO on the planet right now that I'm not sitting in that room hanging out with you boys. So I'll be there next year, no doubt about it. But again, appreciate you guys. And you guys got anything else for me before we get out of here?
No, I just wanted to thank you, Kevin. Everyone, give Kevin Hook'em a follow on Twitter. You want to improve your college fantasy football knowledge, Kevin is your guy. I can't wait to meet you next year, Kevin, up here in Canton. And thank you for coming on. And have a good season, but please don't win the belt. I'm hoping that I get it. So whatever you do, don't win the belt.
That's right.
All right,
And, all right, guys. Y'all have a good one.
You too, my friend. All right, what we're going to do here is we have a solution to our challenge here. I'm going to step up, and I have to go to the restroom too, old man problems. But Eric's going to come in and sit in my seat, and Eric's going to talk to Matt for a little while. All right, everyone? Matt, I'm going to jump out, and Eric's going to jump in.
Sounds good, my man. John just needed an excuse for a bathroom break, I think is really what just happened here.
I'm outnumbered.
All right. I love it. Eric is also, by the way, I can see he's rocking, or I thought maybe he was rocking the Kings Classic shirt. Yeah, I think so. So love that as well. It's got the light blue version. I dig that. And while he's getting on here, I'll point out that John took Isaac Rex, who we talked about in our tight end episode. A little bit of a small QB run here in Cornelius Brown and Austin Owen out of North Texas. Danny Gray and Tate Martin at the turn there for
the baby powder came from the magic bag that I brought over here. That's right.
And it looks like we got Froton ready to go now.
Yes, I am ready to go. And I want you guys to all know out there in Twitter land, Froton is laying down the law in here. You snipe me, you pay the price. Jared got it. Jared got it. You'll get it again.
I am very wet.
Jared got it. Bainbridge got the best one though. Bainbridge got the full on. He took Chris Olave after slandering Chris Olave the entire offseason to me. So he got like a few bullets, metaphorical shots to the head because of that. He deserved it. So nice to see everybody. Sorry.
Well, no, I love the energy. Like I said, man, I could tell from here that you're keeping the draft room on their feet. But tell us a little bit about the guys that you did get, not the ones that you got sniped on. How you feeling about this roster construction?
I feel pretty good. I've really anybody who's listened to me or kind of gone through what I've talked about a little bit this year knows how I feel about the 0 QB or at least a 1 QB build and sort of waiting to see what the value is going to be in that position because I feel like I'm seeing quality quarterbacks fall in just about all the drafts I'm doing. So I'm trying to address these skill positions first and really solidify them before I start diving into the quarterback room.
And you are on the clock here, just so you know.
Excellent. Oh, what perfect timing.
John's computer? Or you got it?
Oh, I got my computer right here on my lap.
Okay, good.
So, and he's got his. So, yeah, we're good to go. So, what I'm going to do here, I've been waiting. I'm really excited because I've been saying this all off season. Anybody who's in the CFF site Discord server, which everybody should join because it's phenomenal. It's a wonderful environment and ecosystem to be swimming in the college fantasy football realm. But I have been. What am I doing? What did I do? Drafting. Oh, I'm drafting. Oh, yeah, right. I'm pontificating, right, and drafting.
He's got 3 minutes, all right? He's got 3 full minutes, all right? Let this man make his pick.
3 more minutes. I get 2 more left. All right. So I've been saying in the Discord server, I've been really hammered. See you, Tigers. Shout out. And, some of the other peeps out there. I don't know if Tadino talked about it, but Tadino gets a shout out too. So the Discord server, I've been all over Will Shipley as I feel like the coach speak about Kobe Pace. I equate this to Auburn last year where DJ Williams was the starter until, Tank Bigsby checked him into the Cucktown Hotel. So that's where I think we're heading here with Mr. Will Shipley and Kobe Pace because you don't go 3-star running backs Don't dominate carries in the Clemson running back room when you have a freak like Shipley, who's been nothing but praised by Dave O'Swinney all season, all offseason. The kid's ready. Will Shipley. Boom.
I like it. I mean, there's certainly, I don't think anybody is going to, nobody's taken that job from him. Let's put it that way. And it seems like they want to use him in that dual threat potential. So I like the pick. I think it's a really sharp pick in the, what are we in the 17th round now?
Yes, sir. I believe it's the 17th. Yeah. So, you know, reasonable. You know, it's not like I'm investing too much or anything. I believe it's my RB6. So, you know, I just want to make sure I had a share of them. It's entirely possible he doesn't open the first 3 weeks as the lead dog, but I think as the season goes on, he's going to continue to gain market share. And by the time of the season, he's going to be rocking and rolling.
And I noticed too, you know, you have Travion Henderson as well. And so not afraid of the youth. Not your roster.
Not afraid of the youth. I also just picked Mario Williams. So especially for this sort of purposes, I want to get, I guess, my feelings out of who I like most for freshmen. You know, in a different format, I might kind of have a different approach. But Mario Williams, I love. All the reports coming out, it's the real deal. I mean, watch his tape. God, spring game, electric. He made that catch over the middle in between 3 guys, you know, reeled that in. And it looked really smooth on a couple out patterns. I'm a Mario Williams guy. Obviously, Travion Henderson, my gosh. Boy, you know, just getting to see what he's, you know, the reports coming out of camp. Obviously, you look at his tape, and he's electric. And he, you know, with Master Teague obviously being one of the more maligned starting quote unquote running backs, I think, in the CFF sphere. When I saw Teague go, I wanted to make sure that I got a hold of Travion Henderson as well, just for the sake of planting a flag, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, you know, looking at Teague's tape, I think he's going to be in the rotation, but I think Henderson's going to get on the field fairly quickly. You know, I don't think there's anything about Master Teague keeping Travion Henderson off the field. Let's put it that way. So I think he's a fine selection there. And, you know,
we're trying to hit home runs. You know, we're trying to hit some home runs too, and that's after what I feel I got a pretty good base with Jerome Ford, Austin Jones. You know, and Helani, which I went with my 1, 2, 3s. I feel pretty confident about those 3 to be able to handle business. I felt like I had a little bit of leeway to kind of take a shot there with Henderson. And then I was fortunate enough to get Brian Robinson in the 14th round at pick number 161, which I feel is I mean, I've seen him going obviously much earlier. Reports have been pretty positive out of camp, and he looks like he's going to be the RB1, whether Chase McClellan, Roydell Williams, Trey Sanders now healthy. I just hope we don't see that Damian Harris situation of a few years ago where that kind of went you know, Jacobs Harris committee style. So yeah, we'll give it a shot.
I got to tell you, you know, I know he's been there for a while, and there's folks that don't like when it takes a player a while to get to the number 1 spot. But Brian Robinson's tape is good, man. I mean, I think he really can take over this offense and put up some really big numbers. So I'm absolutely on you there, or with you, and I'm on the clock as well.
Oh, great.
So let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to dig a little bit deep here. We're going to live the Conference USA life.
Neon Deion Hankins. Hey, when you talk about market share, you talk about dominator rating, you talk about Deion Hankins. He's the only show in town, and he's going to get 20, 25 carries. And UTEP should be better this season. I mean, whatever for what that's worth.
For whatever that's worth, yeah.
Of course, but actually,
9
now
touchdowns as a freshman, you know, not bad.
Yeah, absolutely. It is what it is. So I am up since you took Mr. Deion Hankins, and I'm going to go with another of my favorite sleepers, you know, trying to get these guys in. I have a wide receiver sleepers column coming out shortly. As soon as I can get myself together here at the Expo, I'll be putting it out. But this gentleman we featured prominently, Keyshawn Carter. Houston is what I'm going to go with here. Frankly, Keyshawn Carter, you saw him at Texas Tech last year, and if you watch him out of that slot role, he's so electric. Missed tackle machine. I think he had 16 forced missed tackles in, you know, maybe just slightly over 20 receptions. Extremely elusive, quick. I think that you put him into that Stevenson slot role this year, and Bainbridge is giving me the thumbs down. So you know what Bainbridge gets? What's Bainbridge get? You know what you get, Bainbridge. You get squirted. I gotta lay down the law on these people. It's not easy. Somebody's got to be the sheriff in this room, and it's me. So yeah, I don't think Nathaniel Dell in his 150-pound frame, who was the leading receiver last year, is going to be able to hold off, an electric, quick, twitchy receiver like Deshaun Carter. I really appreciate him. And his catch rate was incredible. He had I believe it was like right around 80% catch rate. So when you're talking about that sort of, a skill package in terms of his ability to change directions, ability to make people miss, and he's shorthanded in an offense at Houston with that, I feel, year 3 of Holderson, this is what he's been gearing up for. This is what Dane has been waiting for this year. He held out a bunch of guys last year. You got a roster of super seniors. Clayton Tune's ready to go. Keshawn Carter is going to be a direct beneficiary of that. I see them scoring 35 points plus, maybe up to 38 or so if they really rock. I'm a Houston guy this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly a schedule that can be favorable to the fantasy football landscape as well. Does John know he's on the clock?
Johnny, you're on the clock, Hanson.
I just did it, brother.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right.
Come on, Matt.
Hey, you know what? John's got multiple devices here. I mean, he's good to go. I should have known. But you pull up this Houston schedule. You got Rice week 2, Grambling State week 3. I mean, you have some big weeks to be invested in this offense. Temple, UConn. It's not a bad schedule to be playing there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the AAC obviously is ascending as a conference, and you obviously get the Power 6 hype coming out from them, and that's their right. And heck, I mean, it might be Power 5 with the way the Pac-12's been. So I don't want to disparage AAC at all. AAC, and you have some really good coaches and good systems there that when they play other Group of 5 teams, they pound them. Those AAC teams, they give it to those, the other underlings of the FBS world, and at the same token, you have some pretty soft defenses in that conference too. And give me every time ECU plays anybody, you have to consider starting them, no matter how far down the depth chart they are. They're wide receiver 2 and a good offense. Well, they're playing ECU, so I like what Houston's bringing to the table. So.
Eric, I want to make sure, because we're heading into the 19th round here, our final round. So I want to make sure that you get a chance to talk a little bit intentionally here about where folks can get your content, where they can get all your written work, and anything else they can put out there.
Sure. NBC Sports Edge, of course, that's where you can find all my written work and such. I obviously podcast with my man, John Lobb, and Scott Bogman, of course. Bogsy, I know you're out there. I hope you're listening. You're not slacking off on me. You're probably recording one of your 10,000 shows you do per year. I know, but miss you, Bogsy. I know he's in the process of a move to Texas, and I wish him all the best and everything goes well there. Of course, but ITL, NBC Sports Edge. Be on the lookout every Saturday morning for my college props, because those college props are absolutely lethal. FanDuel, DraftKings, they don't release those lines until 9, sometimes 10 a.m. of those, before the games kick off. So you only got two hours of prep or so, and I try to get those out sometimes, usually by 11. But you got to be ready to go. Those lines move quick, and DKs and FanDuels are absolutely petrified of what's being done to them, because it's a lost leader for them, and they're just trying to gain market share. But there's an edge there that we can play, and it's better than sides. It's better than all the parsed over NFL stuff. We're better than those odds makers are. And I went 48-21 last year, and overall I closed out 20-6, hit 70%, 77 in my last 5 weeks. Be on the lookout, because it's a very profitable venture to be getting those college football breakdowns.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us, man. I think as we head into this last round, we'll pass it back on over to John, but I appreciate you being on this, and happy to chat with you for a little bit, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And, obviously, best of luck to you, Matt. And hopefully next year,
we'll meet next year. We'll be meeting in person, and I'll be soaking in the chaos instead of just witnessing it.
Well, you'll be soaking in, because let me personally assure you, I bring it.
And I love it.
That's the boys. That's the boys. When it's time to go, Froton's leading the charge. Adios.
Thanks, man. Man, I got to tell you, there's not a lot of folks out there that make John look relaxed and laid
Hey,
back.
man.
Welcome back into the host seat here, John. We're in the final round. You're almost on your final selection.
Oh my God, I can't believe it. It's been incredible. The draft has moved so fast, man. This is only the second time I've ever hosted a live draft. And man, it moves so fast. There's my pick. It moves so
Final
fast.
selection here.
Right. I actually am going to go for I don't usually see him around this late in the draft. And maybe it's too risky, but I'll take him. Kahifi Brown, the wide receiver out of North Carolina.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, he could be the number 2 receiver. You got Sam Howell, a quarterback, explosive offense. I'll take it here.
Ooh,
So, yeah,
we're here. People know who they want with their last pick.
Well, there's still value on the board, especially if you know. So who went right after? Oh, we have Devin Arcane, great pick. EJ Jenkins, great pick. All right. Wow, we're coming up. I camped 2.5 hours so far. We have been live, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure. We've had a blast, but we are in the last round here. So I think obviously everyone has a starting lineup. Has anyone not drafted 2 tight ends?
I have not drafted 2 tight ends.
Oh, we have a bunch of guys. I got hands raised, and Matt says. So we have it looks like six owners did not draft 2 tight ends. So that answers that question.
I mean, we got the waiver wire. That exists.
Oh, absolutely. Remember, everyone playing out this full season, there is an active waiver wire. So there will obviously be tight ends available off the waiver wire. I ended up drafting a 4th quarterback. I don't necessarily like drafting a 4th quarterback, but I saw Michael Penix was hanging around. The reports are getting more and more positive that he's going to be able to return for Indiana. So I was willing to incur the injury risk. There's also, because I'm looking for upside. There are plenty of quarterbacks available on the waiver wire who are safety blanket quarterbacks, but I like the idea of getting a high end who could be a star. Matt, did you go with 3 or 4 quarterbacks at this point?
I ended up going with a 4th quarterback, John,
You did.
just because I wanted to complete the UTSA stack. So I took Frank Harris. So I have Harris, McCormick, and Franklin. So we're all in on the Roadrunners here. This is Team Roadrunner now. And
all right, now I know for your holiday present, I have to buy you a USDA Roadrunner T-shirt. That's definitely going to be the next gift.
I would rock that. And my late round dart throw is looks like they're still available, which I'm not. So
who you grab?
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go with talent. I don't know if he'll see the field. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'll take a shot on Eric Gilbert in the last round.
Interesting. I just saw Eric Gilbert was ranked number 2 in some tight end poll by a major national source.
Oh, this is interesting. Wait, he's classified as a wide receiver on Fantrax?
I get. Oops. So you didn't get 2 tight ends, Matt.
2 tight ends. Has he ever lined up as a wide receiver? What is this?
No, but I do know Florida's allegedly playing him at wide receiver.
Let's check the depth chart here.
Matt goes quickly to the depth chart. Oh my God, we finished it.
He's listed as a wide receiver. Wow. All right, John, the round of applause is because we've made our final pick. And it's Brew McCoy. So, round of applause.
Who went last?
It was Scott.
Brew McCoy, wide receiver to CK and Scott. Oh my God, what a great draft, everyone. The draft board's there. It's going to be posted on the Rookie Big Board, the YouTube channel. This is great content from now until kickoff. A bunch of us are going to be doing articles and promotions and results of their draft picks. Check us out all on Twitter. I'll be tagging everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, the one thing I am asking you, we definitely did this in conjunction with to raise some funds. We are raising funds from Do Good Fantasy Football. The money is going to veterans who have served this nation. My good friend Dan Klaskins, he works in the Veterans Association for the state of Kentucky. It is on my Twitter feed, pinned to the very top page. We are taking donations for 2 more days. If you like this video, you like the content that we gave you, please donate anywhere from $2 to $10 to do good fantasy. Go to my Twitter feed, Gridiron Skull 91. I'll keep that pinned to the top of the page. Any donation counts. We would appreciate that tremendously. I had a blast, Matt. How did you enjoy it?
Oh man, it's like running a marathon, man.
It is, right?
It was fun, but I feel like I need to take a deep breath and just try to catch up. But I got to tell you, John, I like the way this team turned out. I'm optimistic about it. We'll see once the season gets going how things line up. But I feel good with this build, so I'm excited about it.
Hey, for someone who came in and you were a little concerned with your CFF knowledge, it might not be as deep as others. You're such a good prospect and analyst. You know college football. You know all the athletes. You did extraordinarily well. I'm so glad my teammate Matt was able to host this because I don't have the technical abilities to do that. I'm sorry about losing the microphone and the headset for a little while, but we got it all fixed at the end. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. This has been a blast. Thank you, Matt, and thank all our 12 other drafters today. Please follow everyone on Twitter. They're all over my Twitter feed. All of those they can follow. Please do that, and we can't wait for the season. And remember, one of the 12 of us is going to get a fancy belt from TrophySmack.com or Trophy Smack on Twitter. And they'll be posting it in the mail when they receive it. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching today.
All right. Have a good one, everyone. John, enjoy the rest of the weekend in Canton, my friend.
I will, brother.